We are live. Hey, everybody. In there, in here, out there. I am your host, Lord Glarp, or Mike, whatever you prefer. And this is the Trade and Raid podcast. With me always is the beautiful, the wonderful, the excellent, the magnificent even, Sage.
Greetings, all of my darlings. How are we tonight?
Oh boy. Yeah,
Do we have a thing to talk about?
we do. It's gonna be a little different, a little weird. I feel a little under prepped. However, it's gonna be different in that, unlike previous podcasts, we have considered. I mean, we deliberated as a team, and we decided today we should have like a good podcast as opposed to the shit podcast we typically deliver.
Just, throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, we would like your feedback, your comments. If you prefer the shitty show that you're used to, let us know. We won't be offended. But for now, this one we're gonna try something new, a little different. Will the shtick ever get old? Hopefully not.
It amuses me.
Me as well. Just you and I sitting here, just being amused with ourselves. Yeah, we're going to talk about all of the shit surrounding Linus Tech tips. Normally, I don't like to do the kind of normal stuff, but on a Friday. But a lot of our Friday stuff was kind of lukewarm. There was a dude who got shot in the head and the bullet ricocheted off his skull. I mean, that was kind of neat. But I can't show, like, pictures of that, you know? Other than that, yeah, a lot of the other news was just kind of boring, kind of bleh. And, I strive to not just phone it in for you guys. And before anyone asks, we were supposed to have a interview. We didn't have the interview. Loss in communication. That's about it. We don't need to get into it. I'm still a little spicy from it, so we'll just leave it at that for now.
We'll move on to other spicy things.
Yeah, I was planning on that interview taking up a big part of today, so,
Might
and
be a shorter one.
man, I put a lot of prep into that. I put so much prep. I'm not going to dwell on it.
Yep.
We're going to move on. Ain't no thing. Now, I don't know how much you know, Sage, about the Linus Tech tip stuff. I know a very, very, researched in 5 minutes surface area of what's going on.
I was there when the bombs dropped.
Ah, okay. War never changes, I hear.
War never changes.
Do you want to share what you know, or do you think we should?
No, we should probably do the thing, because it's a situation.
It's interesting. From the very little bit I have gleaned, it did seem kind of oniony though. But I was basically just clicking and opening links really fast, so that way we had kind of a pile of things to look at. I haven't watched any of the videos in length, read anything in length, so this is going to be about as fresh for me as it is going to be for you guys. So let's get over to our screen, and I shall share my screen with the Sage. Oop, I got to open it first. Oh, keep pushing the wrong button. Okay. You can see it okay?
Yep, I got it.
You got it? Okay. So, as far as I can tell, As far as I can tell, the bulk of the controversy, the bulk of the issue started with this video. Now, I recognize there's a lot more that goes into it than this, but I think this was maybe not the bulk. This is the straw that broke the camel's back, as best as I can tell. We're not going to watch the whole video. It's just a normal 21-minute long Linus Tech
water cool a computer.
Let's turn him down a little bit.
With a catch. The writer who prepped the system for me has never water cooled a PC before. He sought help from one of our engineers who has
Let's see
never
here.
water cooled a PC before. And we are going to be using an utterly unique one-of-a-kind
It's kind of cool.
water block.
Okay, so that's the important part right there. It's first 16 seconds. I'll turn the volume up so you can hear it.
Utterly unique, one-of-a-kind
One-of-a-kind water block that is intended to cool.
water block that is intended to cool both the CPU and...
So remember that he said in the first 15 seconds,
unique, one-of-a-kind.
one of a kind. He is recognizing and identifying that this is a one of a kind thing. There is none other. There is none other. He didn't say like one of many. He said one of a kind. On some level, that tells me that he knows that this is a prototype to a product that this company wants to carry. That's just that's the language that I'm hearing.
Kind water block that is intended to cool both the CPU and the graphics card as one. Don't worry.
Let me see
Don't
here.
worry about this message from our sponsor.
Supermicro, up to a memory intensive.
The company was founded by two blokes in the company was founded by the monoblock from.
Okay, so this is the monoblock from Billet Labs. And as you can see in the title, he says it's an $800 solid copper cooler. So we have basically everything we need to know from this video in the first 1 minute, which is he has announced what the value of this is, both in the video and in the title.
So this when he's mentioning the value, that is the estimated value that the product would be worth, or what they would charge for the product on the market. That's not necessarily the value of that that unit that he is holding.
I'm pretty sure they pulled up like a listing for the product. I'm pretty sure that evaluation came directly from their website.
This, but this is also a little exist. Do
But
they call it?
I am
Billet
not
Labs
sure.
because you're gonna get a big bill.
It's a
in the mail?
prototype.
Bill it.
I get it. I'm just.
Like I recognize the
No,
one that he
that's
has
not
in
why
his
they call
hand
it
as a
that. It's
prototype.
because it's manufactured out of copper billet and
I get it.
Oh, that's nice.
built low profile. The fittings with this
Don't
one
mind me.
over
It'd
here,
probably be easier
it's
if I had
quite
just let it go
and
instead of
size.
clicking all over.
And came from the 2013 Mac.
Anyway, maybe not. I thought for sure he said in the video, again, I just poked around at it, that he said how much it was worth and pulled up the actual Billet website. How do you spell it? B-I-L-L-I-T or something like that?
E-T at the end.
B-I-L-L-E-T?
Like the name Bill and then E-T.
Ah, spoilers. Okay, so Billet Labs?
Yep.
Yeah, they got a picture of it right out front. Let's see here. Yeah, okay, so it says the monoblock, which what he has in his hand is more than just the monoblock.
It is the monoblock, but it is the prototype for the monoblock.
Right, but
That's a very important distinction as far as this controversy goes.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, I just wanted to show that this $843 is what it is on their website.
Yep. It's pre-order, right? It says pre-order now. Because they're
pre-order?
not. That's yep, right underneath where it says monoblock pre-order, the very
Oh, right
very
there,
top
yeah,
of that listing. Yep. because the product is not out yet.
I thought
What
you were
Linus
saying. I thought you were saying Linus was claiming that it's worth $800.
No. It's the product
Oh.
is worth $800.
My
But
bad.
the
I thought you were
prototype-
speculating on the actual how much they were going to actually charge for it, and I'm like, they say on their website how much they're going to charge for it. My bad. Okay, so that must be me just misunderstanding what you were
It's a
saying.
little confusing, yeah.
Pretty neat though.
It's
yeah.
just so much copper.
you do put out a good point though. Like this does show and prove that they're selling it tentatively. Let's see here, or not tentatively, but they're selling it at a future date.
Yep.
Wonder if they have that future date down here. Man,
I think it's right up there actually.
It's so beautiful. That copper plating looks so nice.
Yep. Right. Pre-order delivery expected between September and November of 2023.
Okay. Cool. All right, so the one that Linus has in his hands is a prototype. It is a not on the market yet prototype.
Yep.
So then this video comes out by Gamers Nexus.
Gamers Nexus, yep.
And Gamers Nexus kind of, if that's the controversy surrounding that, which we'll get into that. Well, actually, I'll just say it. That prototype he had in his hand, they sold on auction, and Billet Labs asked for it back. We will get into the details of that, but they asked for it back, and the Linus's LTT, they said that they had already auctioned it off and sold it, and that is kind of, I think, the spark that ignited this video.
This clip from an LTT lab tour got a lot of attention online.
The difference between us and somebody like Gamers Nexus or Hardware Unboxed is we test new components, new tests every time.
And then Hardware Unboxed tweeted dissatisfaction with the statement made in that.
Every time.
And then Hardware Unboxed tweeted.
Oh no, bit of a big oof moment. LTT Labs taking shots. I've rerun more benchmarks than Linus has spent dollars on testing equipment and staff. Nice. That's nice.
This is a big draw. I would say that this is the kickoff of the more drama side of it. It's like they're different creators in this space are kind of taking verbal shots at each other, back and forth.
Right. I mean, what's nuts is that this kind of directly leads to trigger warning, everybody. I'm going to be using some spicy lingo around SA for anybody. I like to give the warning, just seems appropriate. So this eventually leads into sexual assault allegation and a leaked HR audio clip. Which, when I heard about that, I was like, how did we get from copper cooling system to that, to a new CEO of the company? Bananas.
Dissatisfaction with the state.
Didn't want to say it, but yeah, Linus Tech Tips Labs should look to refine their data, not throw it out and end up with more results than often don't make sense. Or, excuse me, with more results that often don't make sense. Not to be salty, but we've all seen it way more than we should.
Made in that tour.
If you have to tell everyone how good your testing is, in my 20 plus years of experience, that generally means your testing isn't very good. Your work speaks for itself, guys. That's how you build credibility. I should note that both Linus and Luke have been good to us, and they're great guys. This is just very disappointing from an LTT employee.
We didn't say anything at all, anywhere, even though it's not actually true.
Clearly, this is reused data. That's fine, but don't make things up when defining your difference. Ryzen 3D new 7233. Oh, they're saying that the benchmark would not be, or the data would not be identical.
It should be off by, a point here or there.
Right. That they would all be exact is ridiculous.
If they're running a test every time for each project, even if it's only, a week later. If there's
the title's even the same. Except for they changed highest preset to ultra preset.
Yeah. So, that's that whole thing is just don't put your money where your mouth is if you're not gonna back it up, if you're not gonna show that it's like
calling out
different every time.
Calling out every company, calling out your competitors by name in a video like that. Like, unlike our competitors, we don't lie. I mean, it's basically what he could have came out and just said.
It's layered like an onion.
True, they don't collect new data and new tests every single time, and it's not always necessary anyway.
I like that someone went out there and got the receipts for that.
So when Linus went
Steve
on
did.
the WAN show, we hadn't gotten involved. Linus responded to Hardware Unboxed on the WAN show and then said the following.
There's a fair number of people that are talking about the whole Trust Me Bro situation, where there were some creators that it seems like you guys are... Look.
Just say it. Everyone knows.
Yeah, right? I mean, if that's the controversy that's going on, obviously everyone knows who you're talking about or who you're thinking about, who you're referring to. And I mean, one of your employees called them out by name the other day, and it was a response to that. So, I mean, why act like everyone doesn't know what's going on?
And the body language there is very sad to watch. Because if you can appropriately interpret body language, what's actually being said when nothing is being spoken is a lot.
It's pretty clear that not everyone in the creator space handled that super professionally. I don't obviously.
I want that
agree
microphone
with
really
some of the
bad.
takes that were out there. I don't.
Microphone
think that
is so
it's
nice.
particularly.
Gotta admit, it is a nice setup.
Journalistic, for example, to ignore facts. To ignore personal relationships.
It is my job to ignore personal relationships. Yeah, if LMG...
I can't wait for you to try this. LT Store backpack, HW News, changes, price intel. I don't know what the...
So that's the first thing, the backpack, when they released their designed backpack, it did not come with a warranty.
Okay.
That was an issue, and then the part of the extenuating drama with that is that when covering each other, they didn't really Gamers Nexus and ELT didn't really have like a good kind of policy written in stone about like what the rules of engagement are, kind of,
Okay, gotcha.
when they're going to cover each other. So that's what that is about. Is it's like when that drama came out and they talked about it, they're like, okay, we have to have a firm official policy when it comes to covering others in, other reporters in our space and stuff like that. So that's all
probably
that's
good.
relating
That's
to.
probably good to have all that laid out anyway.
Definitely.
He
Absolutely.
is going to make false accusations and wants to try and use personal relationships to gain favor so that we don't cover something we think is not okay. It's not going to work with us. We don't play that game. The first clip from an LTT lab tour caught our attention, but it itself isn't worth commenting on. We have something wider in scope we want to comment on, and it's simply that we believe LTT or LMG is rushing too much to hit arbitrary and largely self-imposed deadlines that are causing frequent and sometimes
What was that?
largely self-imposed deadlines that are causing.
This is Ponage official. How Short Circuit YouTube is just confused with their pinned reply. Our mouse was given as a prize to each of their VIP whales to their recent Linus Expo event, but say not recommended. Talk to your boss, Linus Tech, before you mess up this credibility as well. For a channel this big, you have a responsibility to do basic study and not spread misinformation. Our PTFE mouse skates were tested and have a lower friction efficiency, coefficient, than even the most top gaming mouse brand. It was just rated as one of the smoothest, fastest glide on RTing's site with real tests. If your mouse drags, then it might be time for a new mouse pad. So Short Circuit said, new unboxing. I could have loved you. Ownage Stormbreaker.
Frequent and some.
We watched through all the raw footage from this shoot, and it does appear that the protective plastic film was still on the feet when David gave his initial impression of the glide feel. He retired it after the fact, and their PTFE feet do glide nicely. Okay, we've cut out the comments about the glide issue as to not misrepresent the mouse. However, as some feedback to Ownage, they need to make it much more clear to their end users that the film is present, as it does not have any pull tabs and is transparent, providing very little indication that they're... Oh, come on. Fucking come off it. You kidding me? That's dumb. Like, you could possibly say that about, like, for the consumer's benefit, but you, as someone who's, like, on the top highest end of tech trial and tech data, and your impression of a product means, you know, the difference between life and death of a product potentially, that you didn't check for film is fucking dumb. I'm just saying.
Yep.
I'm just saying.
Exactly.
That's
It
fucking
would be
dumb.
a fair complaint if it were like my grandpa
Yeah.
trying to review a mouse.
Well, I
you know?
didn't know. There's no tabs. There's nothing that tells you on the box. Ah.
But like, and what gets me is if you watch the full like Short Circuit video, it looks like they look at the bottom of the mouse for at least a few seconds. There's where he, like, when he's talking about, it seems like it doesn't glide very well. I think if I remember right, it looked like at least at some point he held it up and kind of flipped it around and looked at the bottom of it, and I'm like, come on.
And when you're dealing with a product, and that's what, I guess that's what he's saying, is they're just turning and burning so fast that they're making clumsy mistakes and then blaming the company for it.
That could have been in the video too. Like it could have been a point in the video of the mouse where like, oh look on the bottom, oh, no wonder it didn't glide very well. They're very subtle. There's plastic still on it. And
then being like, hey, don't forget to check. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. And it could have been a part of the video, and it would have been fine, and this wouldn't have been an issue.
Sometimes significant data errors and information errors. And this conflicts with the ramping marketing surrounding accuracy.
Without them side by side, I can't tell what they're
objective reviews that they're pushing for from LTT Labs. So we've decided to turn off all YouTube monetization here. We will not be placing a sponsored ad in this video. We were just going to report on serious concerns that we have with LTT and bring some awareness to these critical issues. We've been thinking on this for a few months now. We have a few main points of discussion for today. They span from raw data that potentially misleads consumers, even if unintentional, accidental, that counts too. And we have some ethical concerns and corporate connections that we want to talk about, including great ethical concerns regarding LTT's inaccurate testing and misrepresentation of a small company's prototype, followed by the auctioning off of that prototype.
Yeah. Diamond Play button case, YouTube NFT, and I don't know how they could possibly think it would be okay to auction off that prototype. He said in the beginning of the video that it's a one of a kind. He said it. He verbalized it. He knew that it was one of a kind. That's why I made it such a point to point that out in the beginning 15 seconds of that video, because it's like he handled it all day long to make that video, talked about it all day long, assumably talked to the small company who made it, and verbalized out loud in the video that this is a one-of-a-kind product.
It's, even if it wasn't him personally, the fact that a member of his team, because the company is like over 100 people now, you know, various little departments and just various people that may handle the different aspects of their business as a whole. I can definitely see, you know, that's room for error, that's room for miscommunication. But the like, it's not gargantuan, right? It's not like Walmart large. It's not tens of thousands of employees. So just the fact that even as large as they've become, that there wasn't someone in the chain of custody of that product who didn't know, like, why do we still have this? Shouldn't we have sent this back? You know, to have at least asked a question or have been like it.
And I'm assuming that they get mailed so much shit to review, and they have just this constant stream of shit coming through the mail. They're making videos, and they're probably you know, on some days making like 4 or 5 videos in one day where they're just review go. So
yeah, but that's
not an excuse for it at all. That's just to say that they've been doing that for so long. Exactly. They've been doing it for so long, like what, going on 15 years. You would think that they would have like this goes in the we got free shit pile, and this goes in the this is not our shit pile.
Yeah, it almost would have made more, it would have been more understandable if it had just gotten lost.
Yeah.
Right? And then maybe they found it like a month and a half later and then sent it back. But the fact that it reached this stage of being auctioned off, like every item that they auctioned off, especially if it wasn't like theirs to begin with, if they didn't actually have like just solid ownership of it, like triple check that shit.
Yeah, for sure.
Is this okay for us to auction it off? It doesn't, regardless of the reason for auctioning it off. Like, that's kind of important.
Despite the company wanting it back for other media.
That thing's pretty cool looking. Nice tower.
Right.
And not granting permission for the auction. Also, we're concerned about ethics issues regarding LMG.
It's also kind of funny that someone happened to get a video clip of it being sold. It's not even like speculative, like.
He's a recent review of the Ponage mouse, where they failed to notice that there was protective tape over the Teflon feet to knock the friction coefficient of the mouse, followed up by a pseudo correction wherein LMG fails to take full ownership of its mistake and instead blames the product for not handholding them through the process of removing said tape. But we'll start with the simpler stuff and then come back to this. So the marketing is strong, but exiting just entertainment and entering technical data-driven reviews and marketing on the back of that means that there needs to be proper work to back all of that up, because people are now putting a different level of faith in the material coming out, and the expectations are different. And we know these issues at LTT in terms of the rushing, the pushing employees and staff to hit deadlines despite concerns with the data or the collection of the data. We know that these come from top down, as shown in a recent LTT interview that it conducted with its own employees, where many of them stated concerns with content quality pertaining to restrictive time constraints.
Let's publish less videos.
I wish we could back off the amount and focus on quality for a bit.
More time for projects would be good.
Just allow us more time to work on a video.
Wow.
We never have time for retrospection. It's always just, that's out. What's the next thing?
Would be nice if the pace was lessened a little bit. Have time to like debrief or look in the rearview mirror at how things went.
I don't love that we have to release so many videos. I don't know what our current...
6 Linus Tech tips, 1 WAN show, 3 tech linked, 3 plus short circuits, 2 tech quickies, 4 YouTube shorts, 2 float plane exclusives, 3 plus LMG clips, 1 MAC address, 25 plus videos per week.
So for context, the tech tips videos range from 20 to 40 minutes. The WAN show is like a podcast, so
Right.
that can be 3 hours, shorter or longer. Tech links are short. Short circuits usually aren't too long. Tech quickies are usually pretty quick. Shorts are shorts. Float planes are very, very variable. Clips, I don't know if I really count clips there because they're usually taken from other videos.
I mean, there's still an amount of work that goes into
tons.
the editing and stuff.
But it's adding on top of the big stuff, you know.
Yeah,
MAC address I think is usually like 20 minutes.
It's
it's
a lot.
definitely a lot, even for a team as large as they've become. And it's not all that they do is videos. They
And
run merchandise.
the people who are their faces on camera remains relatively the same. So it's like you know, it might be a huge team, but there's only so many people whose faces are going to be on it, and they got to be on all of them.
Is weekly,
and that's
but
yeah.
No, it's very high. Very rarely am I particularly proud of a video I've worked on.
And Linus's own comments recently reinforced that the company is still weighing carefully the impact of spending another half day of work on something to get it right, rather than just shoving it out the door incomplete or potentially wrong.
But it was designed for a 3090 Ti. Well, we went for gold and we tried it with a 4090. The temperature results were bad. It was clear that it wasn't making perfect contact, and so Adam was the writer on that project. What Adam asked is if we could spend more time, put the 3090 Ti on it, and get real results. And what I told him was no. Because, and guys, come on. Like, for real, okay? It's $800 US. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time.
And that's an important indicator of mindset that comes from ownership of the company. We'll come back to that clip later, though. They are rushing, and this rush is causing significant and frequent testing errors, but more importantly, it is clouding their ethical judgment.
And what I told him was no.
They are choosing to publish sometimes known.
I mean, and that does show that there was an employee that was concerned, and they had a clear fix. They had a clear idea of what they wanted to do, and
that almost makes it worse.
And Linus Tech Tips is not in danger of going bankrupt at the loss of an extra $200 for a accurate video.
That is what makes this part, in my opinion, this is one of the most damning things that has been said. And particularly because the employees themselves, as well as to a degree Linus himself, have recognized it.
Yeah, I mean, they recognize it. Linus himself recognizes it to such a casual level that he's willing to casually talk about it on his podcast. Which, I mean, you know, kudos for transparency, but being that readily transparent and being that quick to just say it matter-of-factly shows that it is such a foregone conclusion that you're not willing to put in the appropriate amount of work or the appropriate amount of money for a video, that there's no way that that's like a one-off scenario. That's got to be, it has to be normalized on such a level. And then to have an employee, again, be the person who's trying to check and balance you when they have nothing to really gain from it other than obviously you want your name on something, you want it to be done well. Yeah, that's like one of the worst qualities of a leader, is a leader being like, no, you may not make it better. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, Linus has everything to gain from what that employee wanted to do. So, I don't know.
Except for $500.
That he'd probably end up getting back because it's a good video. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Bad or known incorrectly acquired data. That's different from a mistake. which all of us do in fact make, yes. But that's part of this topic too. And so given the knowledge of
Mistake
the lack
is totally
of
fine.
qualifications when known unqualified, or the intentional forfeiture of quality and accuracy for quantity instead, it calls into question the motivations of the corporation and does in fact make it look to be bottom line centric. This is to hit arbitrary self-imposed deadlines and uploading scheduling whose end result is misleading for consumers, and at some point it is no longer an unintentional mistake to mislead those consumers, such as with known shortcuts that reduce the accuracy of the content. Rather, it becomes intentional to do so because of the knowledge of that approach. We know some people won't like this video, and those people will leave comments enraged, citing drama as some sort of catch-all platitude to discourage this desperately needed conversation. It's their way of emoting, I'm uncomfortable. And I agree with you. This is a very uncomfortable video for me to make. I haven't enjoyed the process of it, but this is something we feel is desperately needed, otherwise we wouldn't be doing it. And it is not simply drama to talk about errors and factual.
Yeah, if it was mistakes, if it was oopsies, I don't think Gamers Nexus would make that like a letter, maybe. Make it like an email or a text message, maybe. Like, hey, your data's getting kind of junky. But to come out and just say, yeah, we had the incorrect data, we ran with the incorrect data, we're not sorry, we do it all the time. As the owner of the company, like, yeah. Let's see how it works for him, Cotton. Bold move, bold strategy.
Testing issues in a way that hopefully brings to light the problems so that the media organization, LMG, can attempt to rectify them if it in fact wishes to do so. We stand to lose a lot here. We risk pissing off people with direct and very valuable and useful to us connections to YouTube if we ever happen to need them. I don't have a connection at YouTube, really, who can help me in any way. Likewise, we risk pissing off people who are connected to LMG, and that would include large streamers who operate in a class that we can't even begin to approach. But most of all, we risk some of our viewers getting upset, but we are approaching this as objectively as possible. And we ask that you listen to the concerns we are raising and the evidence that we are presenting. Because ultimately, if Linus Media Group wants to be consumer first, then it too should want this level of transparency and should want this knowledge of the issues we are presenting today. The company is now over 120 people.
Wow.
It recently had a purchase or an acquisition offer at $100 million. It's helmed by a new CEO whose past includes a career in director positions at companies like Dell and Corsair. Its lab is led by a former marketing director for Asus, which was recently the title sponsor for LTX following what we believe to be a rather soft-handed handling of Asus's board and RMA issues by LTT. LMG is a big company now. It has the resources to do better, and it should be treated as such. Okay, with that stance clear, we're jumping in.
I didn't realize the what do you call that? The high brass was that that what's the word? Seated in the tech industry.
Yeah, those are fairly recent developments as well. I think the CEO changeover was just in the past 6 months, 4 months maybe, and the labs changeover, I don't remember when exactly that was. So, but yeah, those have been rather recent.
Into two key categories here: bad data and misinformation. This includes unintentional or intentional. There's a bit of a gradient. Bad data is testing which is incorrect or erroneous. Misinformation is miscited specifications, for example, or doubling down on flawed testing and reporting on conclusions as if it reflects proper testing when in fact it has been shown not to. These topics will later expand for far more important ethics discussion and concerns that we have regarding sort of the corporate positioning that LMG is in now. Even with its heavily marketed debut of labs, LMG is still consistently making errors in nearly every single review that they publish, It is okay to make errors. All of us do this in this line of work, but the concern we have is that these types of errors are in nearly every single LTT technical or review type of video. So there are enough errors that we can't fit them all into a normal length video. We'll cover a few of them as fast as we can to establish the premise and the concerns, and everything is from the last year only. We're starting with the missed published errors. The more troubling ones are later in the video. Let's start with the entire 40 series. LTT's 40 series reviews started with the RTX 4090, which debuted with multiple erroneous charts, but one in particular was heavily written into the conclusion of the card. That chart was for Cyberpunk, where LTT allowed to slip past them an outlier with the 4090 outperforming the 3090 Ti by 300%.
Jeez.
Yeah, one person should have looked at that and been like, that's not right.
I mean, I looked at it before he said anything, and I'm like, there's no way they're saying that's performance.
For one generation of cards.
Yeah, I'm like, I gotta be missing something, but no. Yes, 300% better is bananas. Absolutely bananas.
In reality, that should be closer to 72 to 75%. We explained this previously, but that's because LTT didn't properly set their test parameters and double check that the graphic settings weren't changing due to other dependencies during test setup. This is a massive human error, and it is indicative of poor process control. No amount of blaming the video game or blaming how its settings behave is going to get you off the hook for this. It's simply human error. That anyone could then look at this chart.
Yeah, human error. That the thing is, like, if you did the error and this is what it produced, you'd be like, oh, oops. Obviously not. But then to publish it is insane. Absolutely insane. And if any human being bought a 4090 because of this graph, shame on LTT.
And that's not, it's not, again, it's like, that's not a cheap card.
No, but if you think the card's going to be a 300% jump, you're like, oh, this is the one. This is the one. Like, I wasn't sure, but 300% improvement, then yeah. I mean, 60% is still pretty good, but a 300% is insane. That's like, we went from the PS1 to the PS3, you know?
Yeah, that's the difference between you, like, waiting for birthday money to buy it or something like that, or a bonus from work or something, to, like, getting a new credit card just to buy it. Because it's like, oh, I got to get one of these now. That's such a good increase, right?
Yeah.
And that's bad.
Not good. Not good.
And think it makes any sense further indicates poor understanding of the data collected. Most of the rest of their own data was relatively consistent, so there should have been clear indicators that this was wrong. Despite being the only one they originally corrected in their comment, this wasn't LTT's only error, and that's a separate concern, because it comes across as burying just how many errors there truly were by only acknowledging the obvious one or not being aware of them. Both are bad. Shadow of the Tomb Raider from that same review was even more bizarre, with the 3090 Ti outperforming the 3090 by 61%. It should be closer to 13% maximally. Once again, there's a lack of basic attention to detail, maybe even knowledge, to identify such massive errors. Moving to automation makes this even more dangerous.
I don't know how.
Because now you need the skill to identify flaws through numbers alone without even looking at the screen. The trouble was just how long it took LTT to acknowledge this mistake. This should have triggered deletion of the video basically immediately when they confirmed it was erroneous. Probably a community post on YouTube, a Twitter post, and a timeline for a fixed video with corrections. But
man's just trying to make his bag.
Days to fix it, and they eventually posted a comment, but they didn't even pin it until people in the community started getting mad about that. That comment that was posted also didn't disclose all the errors, just the lowest hanging fruit of them, which is Cyberpunk. And eventually they replaced the entire video in place. They didn't delete it. There's a YouTube feature that we don't have, most YouTube creators don't have, where they can swap it in place. So they did that, but only after over 1 million people saw
Having the ability to swap a video would be awesome.
There was enough active outreach to get in front of this bad data and alert those 1 million+ people that their purchasing decisions may need to be reevaluated if that data.
1 million people watching the video.
I don't think YouTube should allow the option of swapping out videos.
No, you shouldn't. I'm saying it would be awesome to have that ability.
If everyone had that,
Yeah.
Especially with this kind of stuff, though, it's just the like the Mandela effect manifest, right? You could watch a video with wrong information and then just be like, oh, okay, this politician believes this, or this, this reviewer for these products says this about this, and then they stealthily go in and correct it, and you could be none the wiser. If you ever watched it again, you'd be like, wait a minute.
Like, I must have misheard them. I must have misunderstood. Yeah.
Oof.
Data influenced those decisions. Probably there should have been a recall of the content. If you're curious how we handle these issues, the point here isn't really to talk about that. We have a published set of guidelines that we follow. It is our process and our standard now. That's on gamers.nexus. It's been there a little while. The 4060 review had enough evidence of being rushed, but one of the other pieces was this chart, where an A750 is shown to be better than an RTX 4060 Ti with ray tracing on, which no other public data seems to support, including our own. They probably remade their 4090 mistake here with applying different settings, or perhaps some type of upscaling. They didn't even catch this one. This is another one of the ones that I caught. In their 4060 review, we noticed that their GTX 1060 gains 20% more performance than shown in their 7600 review. That's definitely not from a driver change with a card this old, and nothing else in those charts really moved, so it shouldn't be from a methodological change either. This is clearly an error in one of the two results. That no one noticed this is beyond us. In the 4060 Ti review, they think that memory sharing between the GPU and system memory isn't a thing without rebar, which is just straight misinformation. More recently in June, LTT published its RTX 4060 review with an incorrect lane count in the spec sheet. They listed it as by 16 when it's actually by 8. In May before this, LTT previously made the same exact mistake with its RTX 4060 Ti review. This video on YouTube, they replaced it in place again using the special feature that most people don't have, but if you look at their Billy channel, you can see what the original was, which was the wrong data. In the month since, they didn't roll forward that correction. LTT had already corrected this once before, which indicates to us that they are once again lacking.
So they had the wrong data. They corrected the wrong data on a different video and then reused the data later on. That was the wrong data.
Messy.
Yeah, I mean that means they're working against themselves. Like how can you improve your content, and how can you improve if you're reaching back before the improvement and pulling it forward?
Lacking the proper processes to ensure learned lessons carry forward. So it is missing basic research, which once again starts to become reckless, irresponsible, and concerning for a company branding itself in this position. Moving to bad testing in coolers, in May, Linus Tech Tips published a cooler benchmark video. It had a number of errors that take an entire video to explain, but among them, this particular chart gives away one of the major problems because it illustrates inconsistency between LMG's own testing. In this chart, LMG has the NHD15 from Noctua in red and green, the top two bars, and then it has the Peerless Assassin in blue and an orange. Notice that for each result, the D15 is consistently a few degrees better than the Peerless Assassin in LMG's testing. This isn't the problem. The problem is that LTT's own data is inconsistent when you look at the 7700X. Suddenly, we go from a couple of degrees advantage for the D15 over the Peerless Assassin to 10 degrees advantage for the Peerless Assassin. There is absolutely no way with these CPUs that these results can deviate this much without error in the testing process. That this chart can get past someone and not trigger a removal of that data entry or a significant attempt to try and explain what happened indicates to us that LMG presently lacks the qualifications to conduct proper cooler reviews. There is no reason for a sudden surprise 10-degree delta to favor the cooler that was losing in every other test. LTT refers to the frequency reduction of 300 megahertz in one test as, quote, not enough to affect real-world performance, when actually, that's basically reducing a 13900K to a lesser CPU like a 137. That is a huge difference. So the ability to judge the
He's
data
starting to lose me a little bit. Starting to lose me.
LTT
Getting a little
shows
too
a
technical.
280mm cooler as worse than a downdraft cooler, then blames it on NZXT's software. we are not able to replicate this result. They state NZXT runs in quote silent mode by default, which still wouldn't reduce it to
He's
worse
going to
than
go over a
stock
lot of
cooler.
charts. I'm going to skip forward.
Additionally,
it's all basically
moving
the
on from
same
coolers,
type
last
of
month,
stuff.
LTT published a labs video where they got the model of the power supply they were reviewing wrong. LTT mixed up the Thermaltake Smart 80 Plus and the Thermaltake Smart BM2, which are drastically different power supplies with different quality levels. They also mixed up the 80 Plus 115 volt and 230 volt markers on the graphs, which have different requirements for the efficiency percentage at a given load. This is something they caught after publishing, so that much is good. Pinning a correction is the right move, and they haven't always immediately really no effort in
It was
finding
a
this
CPU
one.
review
And we landed on
error.
50
Okay, I
CPU
see.
Review. The video host states, quote,
The lab put it through its paces.
Asterisk errors.
the next brief section is for asterisked errors, which are added during productions. That's after filming and before publishing. You can't do text on the screen anymore in YouTube after you upload, so all of this is done before the upload, which means that when doing an asterisk correction, a creator is aware of that correction. However, these have to be used carefully because most people won't read them. They might just listen to the video or kind of tune it out. So these shouldn't be used for undoing criticism that was unfair. This past week, Linus Tech Tips showed an all Alienware setup with some asterisked errors. In one instance, LTT states that the keys have, quote, stickers.
Curiously cheap printing on some of the keycaps.
Actually, it's double shot PBT.
Yeah, they're double shot except where they put stickers on them.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yikes.
And expresses disappointment, but the editors add a note that says, not stickers, immediately dismissing, apparently, the disappointment. In another asterisk,
Oh, I didn't even catch it the first time.
And a 4070 Ti, meaning we
I'm
should
sitting
be
here
able to
looking
get
for it,
some
and I just
good gaming performance out of this.
zoned
The
out.
editors add an asterisk that says, not TI. For hard criticisms that are stated by the host or the reviewer, like the keycaps example,
yikes,
serves no value or purpose to come to a wrong conclusion and then put an asterisk.
So
Later.
they
You either
emphasized
cut it or you
on
correct
his
it in
disappointment
video.
while
Going back to those interviews, we
It was
think they're doing
misplaced
these
disappointment,
corrections
yeah.
because
To begin
they're
with,
moving
yeah.
so fast that they won't budget the time to go back and properly correct something, like with the new voiceover line.
I wish we could back off the amount and focus on quality.
When it's clearly entertainment, that's fine, but if you're going to start scrutinizing something, it needs to be treated with care, entertainer or not. Last week, LMG's Tech Quickie channel covered large language model hardware, and within the 4-minute, 45-second video, they had an on-screen text correction from 312 teraflops to 624 teraflops, a big difference. Then they had a related correction later.
Okay, got it. We understand.
Of
Picking up what you're throwing down.
actions and conflicts that we've seen emerging from Linus Tech Tips. So we've been seeing an alarming amount of conflicts from Linus Tech Tips as it relates to their corporate connections, their flow of money, and the potential bias as a result of those things. And we've been looking into this, maybe more of a future video thing, but some of the concerns include how Linus is personally invested $200,000 into Laptop Maker Framework, and yet is also covering their product and their competitors' products. LMG also has a cross-branded, again, screwdriver with Noctua, and that's being sold on their store while they're also reviewing Noctua products favorably, even when it's shown to be hitting, by their own data, 100 degrees Celsius, which becomes problematic for brands like Noctua as well, because now it is less clear if the praise is genuine or if it is biased, whether intentional or unintentional. These issues, combined with high-level corporate connections through the CEO and through the head of labs, raise a lot of concerns about conflict, but we won't be getting into them in depth in this video. Instead, we're going to focus on the consequences of irresponsible reporting and bad data and how that influences the purchasing decisions of millions of people. To start with, let's discuss the implicit ethics of knowing a lack of qualifications yet continuing
I cannot
to
believe
operate
he
on
said
a certain
this
type of content,
on his
or
podcast.
being unwilling to commit the time to do that content properly, especially
To just
if
think
you
it's, like,
know
so okay.
that there are flaws and shortcomings already and choose to forge ahead.
It is
we don't really see any other options here. It is
personality that he's become. Right?
Yeah, it's not
And
good.
you see the same type of behavior from like Elon Musk, you know, when they don't something happens to their internal PR filter. Right?
Right. They're kind of like they're
It's like, even if
beyond
they think it, they just at the very least, shouldn't say it. It's harmful to their company, to their business, to their image, to their brand. It's self-destructive to say. It's like,
and when you're that head guy, no one can really tell you no.
Right.
I mean, they can, but you know that, like, you don't have to listen. If you don't care,
right.
then.
And they've kind of hit on it a little bit, because it's like, yeah, Linus stepped down as the CEO, but he's still the owner.
Right.
Right.
Is either too rushed to the point of potentially producing harmful information to viewers and to consumers that they then act on, and to manufacturers alike, or the company is unqualified to produce that information. It's really one or the other. This one talks about the ethics and power of a review outlet, and therefore its responsibility to do due diligence on a product. On June 24th, LTT published a video about a copper water block made by a small company called Billet Labs, founded just last year. LTT took one of the company's first prototypes to test, valued in the thousands of dollars for manufacturing, not counting opportunity value. In the video, the LTT team stuck this special 3090 Ti water block on an RTX 4090.
If this wasn't a 3090 Ti, then we don't have another 3090 Ti that we can take apart.
How the hell did we not know what GPU this thing was?
I thought it was a 3090 Ti.
So we just casually had a 4090 sitting on the shelf, clearly labeled?
Stating that it should work, despite it not being explicitly compatible. The company did not tell LMG that it would be 4090 compatible. They told LMG that they could try to use a 4090, but Billet Labs itself had not tested one, as it didn't have a 4090 at the time. Water blocks have very specific tolerances and clearances for components, so any misalignment would cause poor contact to the GPU core. LMG decided to try it and continued with the video despite misrepresenting the product massively by using it on an incompatible device that it literally would not fit properly. LTT's presentation goes down the path of being irresponsible, presenting the product as much more difficult to work with than it would be if used properly. The conclusion is,
like, it's a cool product, but it's a bad product.
It looks great.
Yeah, it looks super cool.
Are you just saying it's bad just purely because of the price?
It's bad because it makes absolutely no sense and nobody should buy it. Most of the community is actually really amazing. But there's a vocal minority that looks at something like that and goes, lazy, out of touch, whatever else. No, I'm just really experienced at this.
Oh! You got it.
Ooh.
Crap.
Did you put it backwards?
Get a shot of that. Look at that.
It founds this conclusion on the basis of improper installation. This serves no one. It needlessly harms a small company, and this kind of behavior can kill someone's life work in a heartbeat, and it'd be based on invalid testing and presentation. One of the company founders posted below the video and stated this, quote, "We love LTT, but it was difficult to watch their criticisms when pretty much every design issue that Linus raised was done for a reason which was all explained to Adam weeks ago, none of which, I guess, was fed back to Linus. We also sent a full instruction manual that seemingly wasn't used. I think there's definitely been a major communication breakdown along the video pipeline. We assumed we'd have a chance to answer any problems that were raised and explain them before it being publicly misrepresented." LMG faced some controversy from its community, at which point it replied on the following WAN show, doubling down despite a complete lack of accurate or even useful testing.
Nothing would have changed. Nothing that obeys the laws of physics would have changed the conclusion.
That statement is already a reckless and problematic doubling down, considering the elimination of any possibility to change the conclusion, including a 20-degree reduction, which should change the conclusion.
If the GPU had been 5 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion. If it had been 10 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion. If it had been 20 degrees cooler, that would have been the conclusion.
And we're not alone in saying they should have just done it properly. At least then you have grounds to stand on for criticism.
Yeah, because everything he's saying is speculation. And he had every opportunity to do it correctly. He had all the resources to do it correctly.
It's a castle built on sand.
Right. And the only thing he had to do is be a evaluated $100 million tech company that couldn't acquire a 3090 as requested by the people who gave him the product for review. I mean, the fuck? if you have a 4090 just sitting around on a shelf and you accidentally grabbed it, I think you can get your hands on a 3080 or whatever 3090.
And I also get
hey everybody in chat
retest, but I do think
hello
probably just testing it with the thing that they knew it worked with in the first place probably would have made sense. Because like you're saying, the test result itself doesn't matter, but if it's just supposed to look cool, then it should be seated properly so it looks cool.
After about 5 minutes of RAM,
it sounds like okay. What's his name? The guy on the right. What's his name? I know
that's Luke.
I know who Linus is. I mean, that was some real shit Luke just said. That was real shit.
Previous CEO or head. He was the previous head of labs while they were working on building it out. And so now that they have labs basically to a point up and running, and they have their own, from outside LTT, they have a new lead for their labs area. He came back to do stuff with like LMG directly. I
gotcha. Okay.
Technically, two separate companies or something like that.
I want to hear what
he internal stuff.
I want to hear what he said again.
Him and Linus go way back. They go way back.
I want to hear what he said again.
First place probably would have made sense because like you're saying, the test.
and we're not alone in saying
Right
they
here.
should have just done it properly. At least then you have grounds to stand on for criticisms.
I also get not wanting to retest, but I do think probably just testing it with the thing that they knew it worked with in the first place probably would have made sense. Because like you're saying, the test result
the way
itself
he
doesn't
worded
matter.
that,
If it's like,
doing it
if it's
correctly
just
the first
supposed to
time
look
probably
cool,
would have
then it
made
should
sense.
Be seated properly so it looks cool.
After about 5 minutes of rambling, the conclusion effectively was, lol, it still sucks though. Linus then, after publicly humiliating and trashing the work of two guys just getting their start in business while relying on zero effort to examine the thing correctly, complains about how he'd have to spend $100 to $500 more on an employee's time to test it properly.
But
so fucking
I'm
what?
not. I don't know, guys. I'm not sure if I can apologize for not spending another $100, $200, $300, $500 of various people's time sitting and engineering a workaround to a product that no matter the result, nobody should buy.
Now, we don't have any connection to
Dang.
Billet Labs, and that comment was
Savage.
offensive even to us, so we can't imagine how heartbroken they must have been. Linus, in order to protect his company's bottom line, was willing to potentially inflict immeasurable harm to a startup rather than spend, by his own admission, a couple $100 in someone else's time out of the $100 million company's coffers.
Exactly.
Making matters worse, in conversations
Oh,
with
hey, there it
Billet
is.
Labs, Gamers Nexus learned that the company asked for the prototype back on June 28th. This would allow them to send it out to other media or use it for further development. Linus Media Group agreed at least twice to return the product. The first time they agreed to send it back was June 30th. At LTX,
Oh, wow.
Linus Media Group put the one-of-a-kind water block up for auction at its Extra Life auction event without the permission of Billet Labs.
So they put it up for auction after being asked and after responding. I thought this was something that just disappeared and that Billet had
Nearly a month.
Yeah, this was
after.
like,
Yeah.
we would like it back. Okay, we'll send it back. And then they sold it. Fucking
Billet
wild.
did not learn of this until around August 11th, at which point it was told the block is gone. Again, this is
August 11th. What is that? A week ago?
Yep.
despite LMG agreeing in late June to
That tower is fucking cool, dude.
Looks like a skyscraper.
It's like a
Tokyo-sized
skyscraper.
skyscraper.
Yeah, it's got like hotel sign. It's got little doors down at the bottom.
send it back,
pretty
as
dope.
LMG would have no further use for the block. Billet told us that it is now stalled, as it no longer has its best prototype available for continued development. It's also missing one of its GPUs. We voiced to Billet a concern of a potential competitor, many of whom were at LTX where it was auctioned, potentially getting a hold of the block to send it off to be cloned. Whether or
Oh
not this
man,
happens
I
is
didn't even think about that.
Yep, that's what I
Someone
was thinking
seeing
about
that and
from
being
you.
like, holy shit. A competitor just seeing it sitting there and they're like, haha, don't mind if I do.
Like as a prototype, that's
Fuck.
far more valuable than the $800-ish that the full final product.
Yeah,
will be worth
way
at
more
market.
valuable.
irrelevant. The point is that there's a
And they're a startup, so it's not like this is one of many products. This is like the product.
Responsibility that was ignored. The question that you have to ask as a reviewer is, am I being fair when making this type of commentary? And that's regardless of whether you are just an entertainer or you have your entertainer hat on for that video, but not the next one. And this is particularly important for anyone marketing the future of their business's success on the back of objectivity, fairness, data-driven reviews. Another example of this just popped up recently as we were finishing this video. In the short circuit video where Linus Media Group reviewed a mouse in their Not a Review, the company made strong criticisms of the friction of the mouse in the video.
Okay, so that was the...
This is not a smooth mouse.
He looked right at the back.
Especially on like a premium gaming mouse, that should be one of the primary focuses.
Ponage then contacted LMG to notify them that LMG had not removed the protective film from the feet of the mouse. Linus noted in the WAN show that the short circuit team then posted a pinned comment saying that in fact there weren't any stickers on the mouse at the time of testing and that they stood by their commentary of the product.
The bigger issue here is that our initial correction, which was posted, said, hey, no, it is high friction, and we did test it, and there were no films on the feet.
Ponage then tweeted publicly with an abrasive statement, but one for which we can't fault them. They point out the irony of being chosen as a gift for LTX's Whaleland attendees, despite the conclusion of the video being this.
The only question that remains is, am I recommending you buy this product? No.
This, we don't think, is
there it
about
is.
buying...
How much is that no worth? How much did that no cost Ponage?
Right, that's gee, oof.
And then
Big
if you admit by your own admittance you screwed it up, is there a case then there for like defamation? Don't know.
Favor, but rather the dichotomy between being chosen and then having such an egregious error unfairly undermine the integrity of the product and its chief marketing point. LMG then eventually began the process of replacing the video in place. Once again, we assume this time with YouTube's trim tool. That'll take a day or two to process. They're cutting the section about friction, but this doesn't fix the problem. They are choosing to leave the content live whose conclusions were at least partially based on massively erroneous work because they don't want to hurt their video performance. People continued to see the original until it processed. That can take a day or two, but they're willing to throw Ponage under the bus one last time by providing feedback that the stickers.
That's what I was saying when we saw that post. I was like, that's fucking sad. If you were just some consumer leaving a review on Amazon or some shit, I would expect that. But from this company to be like, we need you to give us a map to all of the film on the mouses so we know where they are. It's fucking dumb.
Maybe, but an end user doesn't get paid to test a product, whether or not it's branded as a review. All of this is ethically unacceptable. They like to brand their short circuit stuff as unboxings, or in other words, not reviews. But it's disingenuous to hide behind that whenever there's a mistake. This magnitude of error is what the mouse, or in the case of the water block, the block.
I mean, if you talk about it and you give your opinion on it and then you say, no, you should not buy it, and then you say, that's not a review, that's an unboxing, that's horribly disingenuous, I think.
Which is either glide or thermals. And to screw the strongest marketing point through such an egregious error as not taking the tape off of the product and still leaving the video up, even while processing a cut, is callous to the impact that those choices have on these companies. Linus Media Group is massive. That has to be treated responsibly. There are correct actions. It should result in some sort of immediate trigger, like a removal of the video with a follow-up saying, we did it again, here's the new result. What's even more disturbing, though, is the community response every time someone has a criticism that's valid. Like when the community beat down Hardware Unboxed for voicing their concerns of LTT's testing accuracies issues, which, while not completely tactful, yes, were valid. Then you look at the recent comments, though, like this, quote, if a professional mouse reviewer couldn't figure it out, what makes you think the average consumer will find the plastic wrapper cover? Quote, Short Circuit isn't a review channel. It's an unboxing and first impressions channel with some labs testing. The conclusion was just David's opinion. he had more issues with the mouse than just the feet. Quote, and if your product can be unboxed by a tech reviewer who does this for a living, and that reviewer doesn't even realize there's packaging that needs to be removed before use, that's bad user experience design of the product that should be called out as a negative.
That's
yes, but calling
ridiculous.
it out would require noticing it as a prerequisite, which a media outlet taking its time would do. Just because Pwnage didn't phrase it in exactly the nicest way doesn't mean their point is invalid. The same went for Hardware Unboxed with their concerns. Pwnage was defending themselves. They apparently, according to Linus, tried it the nice way first before they wrote that abrasive tweet. And it's after getting humiliated publicly a second time through the pinned response, the first one, that basically said, no, our testing was right, and then people noticed that you could see the film reflecting in the B-roll, or at least we did. They then sent that tweet out, and that it had no tact is irrelevant. So we're not going to try and pretty it up. It is unfair. It's unfair to consumers who get misled to bad purchases or not understanding the product. It's unfair to companies when there are major points that are erroneous and aren't properly addressed or handled. And it's unfair to other reviewers who actually are willing to invest the time and, yes, even $100 or $500 or whatever it takes in some cases to get it done right. And it's sad to see because it undermines all of us. They are prioritizing publishing on a fixed schedule, which they have self-imposed. This isn't, the YouTube algorithm isn't some magic thing that actually needs daily uploads. Does it help? Yeah, sure. But there's a lot of things you could do in business that would help that are maybe not the right thing to do. I'm gonna be real here. It's getting difficult for those of us who try to do things right. And we're not the only review outlet here. We're not alone in this. To wade into a product conversation, especially after LTT, where we have to tiptoe around errors they make and write scripts around it to kind of try and subtly correct it, considering the most devout part of the community's propensity to lash out like you're seeing against these two companies defending themselves. And we don't care anymore. We're just gonna say it like it is. Being new to testing, it doesn't absolve the need for taking responsibility of.
So to me, because I think he's wrapping it up now. You still there, Sage?
Yeah, I'm still here. Yeah.
Just checking. It's to me the most egregious part of the whole thing is you have a $100 million tech company that's been testing tech for 15 years, basically, and that you so quickly and carelessly and thoughtlessly not only lost the intellectual property of someone whose product you were reviewing, but you also so quickly discount their value, because there's no way that you could respect a group of people as people within the tech industry and treat not only their product that carelessly physically, but also in the review process to knowingly not test it the way that you were asked to test it. I mean, they said multiple times that they knew it was the wrong card. The other guy, I forget his name, not Linus, the other one, admitted that it wasn't seating properly, that the way that they did it wasn't right. And then to say, well, to test it again would cost maybe a couple $100 to have someone do it, and we'd have to go looking for a 3090. And those two reasons were thought to be reason enough to take the flagship product of a brand new company and shit all over it, and then shrug it off, and then accidentally sell their intellectual property. That by itself, that within a container, without all the other shit, I think is the worst. I think that is like disrespect on such a high level, almost an unquantifiable level. If I had created a product with my best friend, let's say, because they said it was two friends, if me and a best friend used all of our technical knowledge and skill over the course of years to make a product and then built a company around it and then sent that a prototype in to someone who's supposed to be a leader in our space, and they do it wrong, play it up for laughs, say don't buy this fucking thing, it's dumb, and then lose it, I mean, I would probably bawl. Like, I would probably break down. Not even just on a not even just like out of anger, but like, how absolutely fucking defeated would you feel having the person and the company that's supposed to be like kind of the bar in which you're measuring yourself up to as a tech company to do that? So like, you know, they were probably fully compensated for the prototype. And actually, I think they located it and got the prototype back. But I think, like, you know, emotional damage, the damage to like your ego and the damage to your business and the, you know, however many million people saw the video, it just sucks. Like, that just sucks. Yeah, I mean, it's not something that's advertised as a performance product. So, you know, it's not like they're like, oh no, they said it sucks and that's bad performance wise. It's meant for looks. It's made for looks, right? But to not even have the decency to test it with the appropriate equipment, what a slap in the face, you know? What an absolute slap in the face. And yeah, that just goes into how much respect do they have for other businesses and business owners within their own community. Not much. So there's another one. Linus Tech Tips, terrible response. Let's see here. So it looks like there's a lot of information that they put in this Gamers Nexus. So the part about Linus Tech Tips looks like it's about 10 minutes long. Emotional damage. Where is the therapy button? Okay, it's quite long.
Yesterday with some concerns about data accuracy and
yeah, we already got that.
Unapologetic rant where he shirks responsibility and blames others. He tries to play weird.
Okay, so what he's referring to is this. Nope, this. So after Gamer Nexus came out with that video we just watched, Linus took to the forums in the linustechtips.com forums. Obviously, this is Linus himself who posted this, and it is very fucking long. And just the opening here, to Steve, I expressed my disappointment that he didn't go through proper journalistic practices in creating this piece. He has my email and number and could have asked me for context that may have proven valuable. Yeah. Anyway, I'm sure he's going to go over it in his video, but I do want to point out that this is a like gigantic emotional tantrum. Yeah.
And this is something that's been brewing.
Yeah, this is obviously with all that said, I still disagree that the Billet Labs video, not the situation with the return, is an accuracy issue. It's more like I just read the room wrong. We could have retested it with perfect accuracy, but to do so properly, accounting for which cases it could be installed in and which radiators would be plumbing with, again, mystery, would have been impossible and also didn't affect the conclusion of the video, or so I thought. I wanted to evaluate it as a product and as a product. If it could manage, did I read that right?
Yeah. Let's see.
Okay, I wanted to evaluate it as a product, and as a product, if it could manage, this comma doesn't need to be there. It's throwing me off. If it could manage to compete with the temperature of the highest end blocks on the planet, it still wouldn't make sense to buy. So from my point of view, retesting it and finding out that yes, it did in fact run cooler made no difference to the conclusion.
So if you're researching a cooling product that you want to buy for a specific component that you have, you are going to choose one that says it is for that component. Like, all of that is irrelevant, what he just said.
Right.
Because anyone who's at least somewhat competent in their ability to shop for computer components, and if they're doing this all DIY, they better be competent in their ability to understand the components and shop for them. You're not going to make such a dumb mistake as just like, oh, it's fine. It says it's for the 3070 Ti, so we'll just put it on the 4070 or the 4090 or whatever. Like, it's just fine. It's basically the same thing. It's like, no, you have to be very specific. As a tech reviewer, as someone who loves tech, he knows this. He has to know this. So it's not him reading the room wrong. It's mind-boggling.
That
would be pretty funny if like MSI was like, hey, we'll just review our 4090 with their or 40.
I've forgotten the guy's name. I've forgotten the guy's name.
Which guy?
Was it Warren? Nope. Or maybe it was Points of Book Review. I can't remember if it was 1966. Dang, I can't remember. That guy we talked about when we were talking about game review.
Oh.
I can't remember. I can't remember his name.
Yeah. Just the.
I love the quote, and I totally forgot what it was.
Just on like being a proper reviewer of something.
Yeah. And the very first thing he said was, don't try to review somebody. Don't hold someone to a standard of like outcome when the person who made the product was not seeking to have that outcome to begin with. So to review a product on performance when it is not a performance-based product makes no sense. So to me,
in this case, it's just on the wrong unit.
And also from a standpoint of entertainment, even if the video had been more entertaining and more charitable to the point of the product, more people would buy it. Because of how it's being presented. Like the point of the product. Now, if he said, obviously, statistics wise, we ran the statistics just to show you. We ran all the numbers just to show you. And as we already would know, it's not going to perform as good as, you know, the leaders in the space. However, this obviously wasn't made for that purpose. This was made for looks. So if you love the way that this looks, if you're trying to make a steampunk case, if you like that copper, it's still within the realm of usability. You know, right. Buyer discretion advised.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
So the point would be, it looks cool. It was a cool idea. This is a small group of people making this thing. It's not fucking good. I mean, Linus has to protect his reputation should have a reputation for actually reviewing shit.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, you always have to run with that. This is not the intention of the thing. Just like if someone's reviewing, let's say you're reviewing a car, and let's say it's like a supercar that can go like 0 to 200 in 60 seconds. Like those statistics,
don't buy it. It gets really bad gas mileage.
Yeah,
that's not the point.
Yeah, and the review of the product, people don't give a fuck that you can't legally do that ever, even if you could afford it. People want to see big car go vroom vroom, you know. People want to just see it and watch it and gawk at it and maybe never buy it. But to say like, you know, no one can actually go 0 to 60 in 200 miles per hour. It'd be completely illegal everywhere in the US. There's no point to buying this product. What a dumb thing for them to do with a car. Why? No one could even use this. Why would anyone do this? You know, like if that was the way you reviewed it, no, like people would be like, okay, all right, I guess, you know,
video, sure.
Yeah. The point was, look at it. It's pretty. So when I see him trying to mash the thing in place and force things to fit and then being like, it's not that good. It doesn't fit anywhere, you know, stats wise, to me, it's the same thing. It's like you're making a mockery of what this thing is supposed to be. Yeah.
And
anyway,
being a reviewer,
I could probably die on that fucking hill.
Yeah.
So yeah, we saw that. This is his breakdown of that post that Linus put on his forum.
Weird semantic games like saying, quote, "We didn't sell the product, we auctioned it," or misrepresent the timeline for when he contacted Billet Labs. He triples down on Billet Labs and says, quote, "I still disagree that the Billet Labs video is an accuracy issue. It's more like I just read the room wrong." That doesn't even make any sense. It's not the job of a reviewer to read the room and tell the room what it wants to hear. That is called a
sycophant.
A sycophant is a perfect word to describe it.
He also said, quote,
"Nice.
We could have retested it with perfect accuracy, but to do so properly, accounting for which cases it could be installed in, none, and which radiators it would be plumbed with, again, a mystery, would have been impossible."
Not even
and also
close
didn't
to
affect
impossible.
The conclusion of the video.
I've seen Linus make shit happen for the sake of a review, especially a decade ago, especially like 8 years ago. He would have done fucking anything to make, and if he couldn't make it work, absolutely could not, he would have not made the video.
Or he would have said so at the end and been like, yeah, we couldn't make it work, but I mean, here's all the content. You can watch us struggle.
He would say, or he would
That's
come out,
entertaining.
he'd come out with a pile of shit and say, we're going to try to make this work the best we can. And you'd see him plug things in and be like, nah, that doesn't fit. You know, maybe he'd be like, yeah, we're going to try the 4090 Ti. And, you know, Billet said maybe it would work, maybe it wouldn't. We tried it. And then you'd see him struggle with it and be like, nah, that ain't going to work. You know, it's almost like old Linus would have treated it like a foregone conclusion that if it can't be seeded, we're not going to go any further. You know what I mean? And then try something else. And then if he legitimately didn't have anything else, then he'd be like, all right, guys, well, from here on out, you know, we're going to force it. Like you said, he would make it probably more entertaining.
But he wouldn't come at the end and be like, just no one should ever buy this thing.
You shouldn't buy this. Do you see how much of a pain in the dick that was? I dicked around with that for 4 hours, couldn't get it seated. What a piece of shit. Because a lot of people won't read between the lines. They'll just kind of hear and they'll be like, oh, it's bad. I saw him struggle and then he said it was bad. I don't want to struggle. Must be bad. You know, like.
Or so I thought. To be clear here, the random caps lock is not us. That's the original emphasis. I mean, we could have retested it with perfect accuracy, but to do so would have been impossible is nonsense. And it's very difficult.
Pure nonsense.
To engage with nonsense. I don't know what that means. Then he completely ignores the enormous video-breaking errors with cooler CPU and GPU testing results and processes that sometimes wildly misrepresent the product.
I mean, that was like 50% of the video.
We wear our imperfection on our sleeves in the interest of ensuring that we stay accountable to you without explaining how it happened or how they'll fix it. Look, we're going to talk about this today, but we're not going to drag this out and make a whole new standalone video about this response because they haven't added anything of substance. The response is immature, it's blaming others, and it's irresponsible to the community they've built. But we are going to talk about some of the issues in this statement nonetheless, and then we're moving on. Let's start with Billet. This is where the story is getting a little bit twisted. We saw some comments about this confirming our concern.
Half an onion. I'm just looking at the up views. I always look particularly when it comes to social media posts at how many either likes it got or upticks or whatever, because sometimes people will post shit with like 20 likes and then try to treat it like a point. You know what I mean? but this is 726, so it's okay. Linus replied on the forums that you sent them a quote for the loss. The GN never covered that for some reason. Sorry to hear about the prototype. Were you made whole after the situation? Where's the some reason? Oh, for some... I see. Covered that for some reason. Is that where the reason they got a response from LMG, and also that Bullet didn't send them a quote for the loss? Okay, I see.
That people would lose track of the actual timeline. First of all, we're not going to argue the semantics about an item being sold against the will of a company versus being auctioned, and being for charity, which we already said doesn't make that better. It makes it worse, because now you're roping in an innocent third party into a very awkward situation that can potentially make them look bad.
We're gonna need that 80 grand back, charity.
And secondly, this is actually what we said. The first time they agreed to send it back was June 30th. At LTX, Linus Media Group put the one-of-a-kind water block up for auction at its Extra Life auction event. More seriously, Linus's statement, which reads, quote, "We have already agreed to compensate Billet Labs for the cost of their prototype," uses specific language to imply that this was agreed upon prior to our video launching. Following this forum post from Linus, we reached out to Billet Labs, with whom we'd already had contact, and we asked them the following. We said Linus's comment doesn't expressly say it, but it seems to imply that this agreement was made previously. Billet Labs said, no, absolutely not, no, no, no. The only mention of any money to do with the prototype was our response to them after they said they'd auctioned it. And we basically said, you know, that was an expensive prototype. They didn't want us to share the exact dollar amount. Billet continued to explain their email. They said, quote, "I said, do you plan to reimburse us for this? And we heard nothing. We didn't get a response until your video." And Billet
okay.
We asked Billet when it had received that email.
So the video came out, and then they responded to Billet and were like, "Oh yeah, we'll pay for that." Could feel the heat. Could feel the heat coming.
Some of this is definitely weird too, and I wasn't sure about it when I first watched all this stuff going on, because it's like, okay, so you have this email, chain response kind of going back and forth between LTT or LMG specifically and Billet Labs over this debacle, and we've got one group kind of saying one thing and the other group saying another. And since LMG made a video that very, poorly reflected on Billet Labs' product, on the more cynical and skeptical side of me was like, well, what does Billet have to, could there potentially be, like, just saying, like, yeah, we never actually sent this, even if they did, is because it's like, if these emails are private, if they're not like showing screenshots of the email chain with timestamps and everything, and like, okay, is there something else going on here? Is someone not being truthful, or are they being particularly extra disingenuous just based on the fact that,
well, I think if the emails hadn't been sent, or if the timetable had been askew, I think Linus would have pointed that out in his post, which he didn't. Yeah. Because the claim about those emails were in the first Gamers Nexus video, and they were never addressed by Linus. So to me, not addressing it is as
almost an admission of guilt,
about as close to an admission of guilt as you can get. What I don't think is, I don't think Linus was aware of those emails. I think somebody within the company is supposed to be in charge of receiving and shipping as far as products coming in from other places. And whoever
or
that
even
person
just,
is, like a PR, PR correspondence person. So I'm assuming that email got lost in translation, or was being forwarded to a person to retrieve the piece after the video was done. I mean, don't forget, this all happened in like a less than 72-hour window. As far as Gamer Nexus's video coming out and them probably realizing that it was sold at auction, and because it's sold at auction, Gamer Nexus video, Linus finding out, and Linus posting video, and then this video is like a 3-day window. But the request to send back the piece is like over a month old.
Yeah, no, that ship has sailed basically as far as the sending it back. The miscommunication with the, compensating them for the loss of their prototype, that does have an explanation. We do get to an explanation from LMG about what happened, how that miscommunication happened. I was just saying, like, as this was going on, before they had the explanation on the miscommunication, I was just like, my brain was just thinking of like, okay, something is just still kind of off, and there is space here for not seeing, both sides of the whole story, especially if someone is saying that, yes, we did reach out, and they're saying, no, we didn't reach out. It's like, it could be someone on either side where that is miscommunicating, right?
Right.
It could have been someone from LMG either didn't actually send, saying, hey, we'll pay for it, just tell us how much. Or it could be someone from Billet, like, got that email and just went, you know what? Screw you guys. We're going to pretend we didn't see it or didn't get it. Or even just actually missed it or went to spam.
I was going to say, I would very,
Not
very
to
much
be-
so put it in the realm of miscommunication over like intentional.
Occam's razor would be, yes, yeah, I doubt it was intentional. But
And
when you're-
both
when you know
sides,
everything,
and when you have a loss in communication, typically both sides feel misled, because it's like, whatever that communication breakdown was, wherever it happened, typically both sides believe that they're in the right and believe they did everything they should have.
Right, yep. It can lead to
so-
very hurt feelings and then emotional responses, as
a
we
very
clearly see.
emotional response.
From Linus, and they noted it arrived about 2 to 3 hours after we published our video, which would have been around the same time that Linus posted the comment on the forums. So he wrote that email and he posted, and then said they've already come to an agreement. But at the time he posted it, Billet hadn't responded to the email. And just for the record, we have the timeline of events, so I vetted them. And Linus Media Group did, in fact, agree to send the block back on June 30th. And
June 30th, let me know if you'd like the block back either way, and we can ship it back with the 3090 Ti. We'll send back the mono block and the 30... Wait, why would they be shipping back a 3090 Ti?
Because they sent Billet sent them a 3090 Ti with the block, so that they would have the right card.
They said that they didn't have it.
Yeah.
In the video, they said that they didn't have a 3090 Ti, that it would be impossible.
Well, that's what, for one, again, we're taking them at their word.
That's
right.
That's right.
That they're not just saying it for, well, this is why we did it and for entertainment value and whatnot. Like, we're taking them at their word that they didn't have it.
The block in the 3090
stuff,
Right.
It could have been lost. It could have been.
The block in the 3090 Ti should be sent sometime next week. So June 30th. Okay, so it's been almost 2 weeks. LTX Extra Life auction featuring Billet block ends. Wow, that's a pretty big jump in time. That's over 2 weeks between them acknowledging that they'll send it back and auctioning it. Early August, so there was a communication mishap and we ended up auctioning off the mono block in silent auction for charity. The good news is that it isn't just sitting on a shelf. Ooh. Ew.
Like, that was, yeah, no, that last bit was just
that's
actually unprofessional and very unnecessary.
That's gross. I'm assuming whoever sent that email was unaware of the sending it back emails. It was probably someone who was part of the Extra Life auction. And they were probably like, "Hey, we're looking for this thing. Did it sell at your auction?"
Without screenshots of like the actual emails, can't really say.
And then they followed up.
I'm gonna go ahead and accept this as truth only because LTT has not come out and said anything about any of this being untrue, but they've been very vocal about even just stupid shit like, oh, we didn't sell it, it was auctioned. There's a difference. And it's like, okay, if you're scrutinizing what they're saying on that level, then, and you don't address this, the emails at all, then this has to be part of the truth. For me anyway.
No, that makes sense, yeah.
To tell Billet that they would have a tracking number soon, and then it was last seen at the auction at LTX.
The last bit of that
today was
is
the first
awful.
time that Billet had direct contact with Linus. A comment from Linus lower in the forum reads this, quote, Billet sent us a quote. I don't know or care how they arrived at the value. If they're good, I'm good. We asked them about this, and Billet emphasized to us that it had not sent Linus Media Group a quote. It noted that it had expressed a possible value of the block in frustration before our video went up, before this conversation began, after they learned that it had been auctioned previously, but that this wasn't any kind of quote or invoice. We asked Billet if it had anything further to share, and it said, he's emailed us. We haven't emailed back yet at the time of writing. We thank the community for the support. We stand by everything we've said publicly. Billet noted that they intend to email Linus back prior to sharing any further details. And they also spent a few minutes to express very sincere gratitude to the community. And as they don't have quite as much of a platform, I'm just conveying that to you. They were extremely grateful to the support that they've received from you all. And I do think that they felt some closure on their side. Now we get into something important. As far as
There won't be a big... Oh, we already read this. Didn't go through...
Linus's belief that we should have reached out to him first, and that not doing so somehow makes the 44 minutes of reporting any less valid, and considering the fact that he said there would have been valuable context such as, quote, the fact that while we haven't sent payment yet, we've already agreed to compensate Billet Labs with the cost of their prototype, which, again, Linus emailed Billet after the video. And this Billet situation is exactly why. This sentence structure makes it appear as if Billet already agreed to some kind of resolution before the video. That's why it's our responsibility when doing proper reporting to ensure that the truth gets to viewers and that it's not misrepresented by a manufacturer. We don't have to reach out to corporations when we think there's a pattern.
Yeah, kind of myth.
If I'm being charitable in my interpretation of what he said there, he may be saying that internally, you know, discussing with the team members that may have been involved, or with the CEO and himself as the owner, you know.
Right.
Like, we have agreed. So they're saying we have agreed with each other, with ourselves, to reimburse them.
Right.
They may not be saying that we have agreed to Billet to reimburse them, right? Because that's me being as charitable as possible with that, because otherwise it's like, it sounds like he's outright lying, right? Compared to if Billet is saying, look, we haven't received an email yet with them offering to reimburse us, and he's saying we've reimbursed them, right? Or we've agreed to reimburse them. Like, okay, is he lying, or
it could be just more miscommunication?
More miscommunication.
I mean, 120 people at that company, and they don't have proper business structure. That's, you know, that's a lot of room for error.
Absolutely.
Behavior, or that there may be a significant chance that they try to cover things up, or prepare a pre-written response that could twist the narrative, and in this case, manipulate the audience. Linus willfully ignoring our valid criticisms of data accuracy and some of the ethical concerns, while then trying to manipulate the audience into viewing him as the victim, not just LMG. This was very, is
very personal.
This is why we don't
it's
reach
quite
out
personal.
every time. I want to be very clear. We don't have to reach out to corporations prior to reporting on them, period. For big corporations, we don't reach out if the issue already harms consumers or if their view is irrelevant. The Walmart PC, the Alienware PC, any number of products we buy, we don't need to reach out because the damage is being done actively. And we don't need Linus's input or permission to make that video. LMG's videos are already affecting millions of consumers. And They have objective errors that we covered objectively, and they involved serious ethical concerns, which we raised. And rather than addressing those,
I think we got it. I think we've gleaned from it. I think we're good here as far as this video goes. It goes on for a while, but oh, he does pull up stuff. Ah, fuck it. Okay, we'll watch.
He's choosing to try and distract viewers by whining about us, not allowing him to comment first. And they've already commented anyway. They did it in all of these various WAN shows. We know what their comment is. We know what they think. And when there's an objective, factual issue, we don't need to reach out. The risk is to the consumer. And these aren't unreleased products. They are public videos with a lot of views. And I am exceptionally disappointed in this response. As for the rest of the...
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. We're good. We're good. So, here, Billet Labs subreddit, or Linus Tech Tips. Oh, this is Billet Labs. Okay, this is Billet Labs' actual account. And this is their public statement. It's got 34,000 karmas and all that stuff. You, the PC community, are amazing. We'd like to thank you for your support. It means more than you can imagine. Steve at Gamers Nexus has publicly shown his integrity at the huge risk of backlash, and we have nothing but respect for him. This was 3 days ago, by the way. He's handled himself both publicly and when speaking directly to us. Regarding LTT, we are simply going to state the relevant facts. On the 10th of August, we were told by Linus Tech Tips via email that the block had been sold in auction. There was no apology. We replied on the 10th of August within 30 minutes telling Linus Tech Tips that this wasn't okay and that this was an X number of dollars prototype, and we asked if they planned to reimburse us at all. We received no reply and no offer of payment until 2 hours after Gamers Nexus video went live on the 14th of August, at which point Linus himself emailed us directly. The exact monetary value of the prototype was offered as reimbursement. We have not received nor have we asked for any other form of compensation. I'm bored, so money. Thank you, WT Clips. Appreciate it. About the future of Billet Labs, we didn't plan to... Is that... mourn. I thought I said moron. We didn't plan to mourn our missing block. We're already hard at work making another one to use for PC case development, as well as other media and marketing opportunities. Yes, it sucks that the prototype is gone. It slowed us, but it's absolutely not stopped us. We have pre-orders for it and plan to push ahead with our first production run as soon as we can. We also have some exciting new products on our website that are available to buy now. We thank everyone who has bought them so far, and we can't wait to see what you do with them. We're happy to answer any questions, but we won't be commenting on Linus Tech Tips or the specifics of the email exchanges. We're going to concentrate on making cool stuff and innovate products. The monoblock being just one of these. We hope Linus Tech Tips implements the necessary changes to stop a situation like this happening again. Felix and Dean. Man, that had to have been hard for them to write. Because they got fucked. For a month.
Yeah.
They got fucked raw for a month. Linus came out with 15 paragraphs of crying and saying it was everyone else's fault. And these guys come out with their first and only public statement. And it's short and sweet. This is what happened. You will get over it. Fuck it. We're moving on. It's good.
Professional.
Good. Yeah, very professional. And it's a good way to be. Yeah. And this is on the Linus Tech Tips subreddit. So, there you go. Fucking A. So this is we're getting into some different territory now, but it does lead up to their newest "What Do We Do Now" video. Leaked Linus Tech Tips audio from staff meeting the day after Madison Reeve left. It's hard to hear, so let me turn this music off real quick. I have all the volume up as high as I can, guys, so it just might be really hard to hear.
So we called this meeting because it's come to our attention that we need to have a quick chat about the best way to handle HR-related feedback and rumors. We won't be giving any names for what I hope are extraordinarily obvious reasons, but what we can do is give you the following guidelines for problem solving and conflict resolution.
So immediately, and I'm gonna pop this scene because it's just a picture of Linus. Just to set the scene for you guys so you understand the context. This is an HR meeting. This is a mandatory HR meeting, 120 employees, and Linus is running the HR meeting. Not an HR person, not a trained HR person, not an HR department head. Linus himself, as owner of the company, in response to someone leaving and some stuff that they were going through, he's the one in charge of it. And you got to focus really hard on kind of his tone about it. So, just if you can put yourself in the mindset that someone just left the company on bad terms. There was some SA allegation, and we'll get more into them because Madison did a bunch of posts on their Twitter. But just listen how this 4-minute and 22-second HR meeting, because this is the entire meeting, this is beginning to end, by Linus.
Sorry that this is all boring and corporate, but here we are. Number one.
Nervous laughter is okay sometimes, especially if you're not trained, because it's awkward and all that. So I'll be charitable on that. I do awkward laughter as well.
We stand up for what's right. We're only a team as long as we're all working together and looking out for each other. That's the most important. Number two, always reflect on your own personal experiences and use your common sense. Few things in life are truly black and white. Number three, always wait to hear both sides of a story before passing your own judgment. Be cautious when you know that one side is bound by legal and ethical disclosure guidelines when the other is not. Carefully consider what it says about the character of someone who would engage in that type of gossip against someone who has no power to protect themselves. Number four, always encourage openness and transparency. If you have a problem, you need to speak up. We want to fix it. If you receive feedback about somebody else at this company, the first response is, have you spoken with this person? Followed closely by, you need to speak with this person. We don't solve interpersonal issues here, or really anywhere in your life if you wish to live.
Another thing, for context, LTT at the time of this recording does not have an HR department. So Linus himself or someone else who's in that upper echelon would have to do this because they don't, at this point in time, they did not have an HR department.
Which is the same as saying everyone is HR.
Right.
But yeah.
Like, you can go to HR with all of your complaints is saying you can come to me with all of your complaints.
Yep.
Same thing.
Free zone by engaging in water cooler politicking. So if for any reason that individual is not comfortable approaching the person they're having a conflict with, we have a chain that they're supposed to follow. So first, you advise them to take the problem to their manager, followed by me or Yvonne, followed by our third-party HR firm.
Followed by our third-party HR firm. It's not in the building. It's not part of the company. It's like HR hotline.
Which kind of makes sense that would be the last step then, because it's also the least accessible.
Yeah.
Directly accessible.
He said right there, talk to your manager. If the problem is your manager, there's this one other person you can talk to. If not them, go call the HR people off campus. People who don't know anything about this company, people who don't work here. It's like, I don't understand how, for a company that's worth $100 million on a valuation, is like, and we outsource our HR.
No, like most companies.
If it was a
I'm
company
pretty
of like
sure-
30 or 40, maybe.
Yeah. Oh, sure. But at some point, and I've known companies that are smaller than that do have at least one person who is officially like an HR person.
Yeah, they got
Even if
some
most
kind
of
of
it's
training,
hiring,
some
they
kind of
do, but
certification statewide or something like that. Fucking A.
I think, yeah.
I hope that you all trust that we're here to make this a safe, fun, and productive workplace, and we won't tolerate mistreatment of any of our team members. If you have any reason to believe otherwise, then I refer you again to point number 4, which is to address the issue with the individual directly, or bring it to me or Yvonne, or bring it to our third-party HR firm. Since I'm not at liberty to share any details about what occurred, all I can do is ask that you trust me and Yvonne. Some of you know.
Okay, real quick, he said, I am not at liberty to discuss what happened, right? And you guys all know that when something HR related happens within a company, typically you're required to do HR training. Something happens inappropriate in the workplace, everyone has to do some training on it. He said he can't talk about it. And this was the day after Madison left the company.
You know us very well. I've been here a very long time. Some of you have not been here for as long, but I like to think that whether you've been here for 9 years or 9 days, you're here for a reason, and you believe that we do our utmost to run this company with integrity and compassion. We can't solve problems we don't know about, though. So on that note, I'd like to invite anyone who has concerns about a fellow team member or about a manager to submit their feedback either by speaking with their manager, with me or Yvonne directly, or if you would prefer to provide your feedback anonymously, we have an option for that as well. It's the manager and coworker feedback form. Yvonne, if you're not aware of it, show of hands who is not aware of it. Okay, a lot of people aren't aware of it. Good. So now we all know. There's an anonymous form. If for whatever reason you're not comfortable even talking to me or Yvonne directly about it, and that's fine, we understand. That's why we have these options. Yvonne's going to post it in the general chat. It's a just
Something that's kind of interesting too, just a thought I had. Whoever is recording this probably recorded it because Madison, who just left the company the day before, probably asked them to. Just to make sure that I would assume this is purely just my own assumption, speculation, just to make sure that like they're not talking about whatever happened to them. To be like, I'm leaving because of this. They said they wouldn't say anything. Would you go ahead and record that for me? I need to make sure that they're not talking about this. It would be my assumption.
safe space to provide us ideas for improvement, or if you're consumed by the holiday spirit and you want to say nice things, you can do that too. Does anybody else have any questions? Not a single question? Wow, that must have been a really good speech.
You gonna dance on that table or just stand on it?
That's it. So, Vaughn, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Somebody said to me your workout sticks. If you guys want to sanitize your hands and help yourself, make sure you do that.
Yeah, that was actually just totally random timing. It came up the stairs a moment ago. Dennis is on it. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful and productive rest of your day and weekend.
So, yeah, that's almost 4 minutes exactly, right? The only thing I care about this is just the inappropriateness of Linus leading an HR anything. But we'll get more into that with the Madison's post. So Madison said, to stop the speculation and DMs I'm receiving, this was posted, was that day before yesterday? I chose to quit my role at Linus Tech Tips because it and the working environment I was facing were ruining my mental health. The number of daily items the social media role at the time was expected to fill was incredibly high. I was expected to post 3 tweets, 2 Instagram posts, 2 TikToks minimum per day. I was also expected to plan, film, edit, and post 2 float plane exclusives per week. This included wrangling people to be in them, and when they were also all struggling to get their work done. I was also expected to manage, plan, come up with, execute, get approval for, and schedule out all the sponsored content on socials, not including YouTube. All while being told not to complain because my job was, quote unquote, the fun job.
Unless you're your own boss and doing something you actually love, no job is a fun job.
I cannot speak on what it's like now, but they have an entire team working on seemingly what I was expected to accomplish alone. I misspoke originally when I stated I had signed an NDA. I thought the employee handbook acted as one. I'm not a lawyer. That's fair. Usually if someone hands me a document of any kind at a place I work, I just assume I'm not allowed to talk about it. You sign so many papers and stuff at the beginning. I never publicly made any statements regarding my time there because I feared even more backlash from a community that was already attacking, defaming, and sending me death threats. I also feared for my future in this career given that Linus Tech Tips is large and has industry connections. My time at this company brought my mental health to an all-time low. You could talk to anyone who was around me during my employment and they would confirm it. I would not have recommended anyone I knew work there, especially with my experiences as a woman in the office. I was constantly belittled by certain members of upper management. My work was called dog shit. I was called incompetent. When I would reach out to managers and try to get help with these situations, I would be told to put on my big girl pants and be more assertive. It doesn't matter if you think I am or not stupid. This behavior is not appropriate. After enough complaints from me, I was pulled into a meeting. In that meeting, the writers room was pointed to, and I was asked, "Do you think any of these people would have a hard time getting a job?" I said no. Keep in mind this was about a month into working there. I was then pointed to and asked, "What about you?" I was scared. I remember asking, "Are you going to fire me?" I was laughed at and told to stop being so pessimistic, as if my job and ability hadn't just been vaguely threatened. I was then asked to agree to a verbal no-drama contract. The verbal part is important. In this moment, I realized I was no longer considered part of the team. I was now a threat because I was putting up a fuss when I believed I was being treated unfairly and inappropriately. This verbal agreement wasn't right. It was a behind-the-scenes warning with no record. A warning that came very shortly after I had come forward stating I had been inappropriately grabbed multiple times in the office, among other issues. I was barred from being in videos, so when you ask what happened, why wasn't she in more content, this is why. There is this perplexing fear that people will leave LTT and start their own thing if given a platform. So if that platform could threaten negative things coming out about your company or you probably want to squash it too. In my experience, there is a belief that everything you accomplish, no matter how much is created by your own effort, is actually due to Linus giving you a platform. This was what I was told when I moved to from Arizona to Vancouver to make this job. After it was publicly announced by Linus that he was hiring me without my knowledge or consent to that situation, and before I was even offered the job or shown the salary, I agreed inside the employee contract. I had asked and been told during my interviews that I would be allowed to monetize my YouTube channel and be allowed to join Floatplane in exchange for shutting down my Patreon. Once I moved, I was presented with an entirely new contract handbook that I was not told existed. It detailed that I was given incorrect information and would actually have to make changes to my plans if I wanted to continue being employed at LTT. This was after I had moved entire countries and given up my visa status. Oops. I couldn't just go back. Some corrections were made as apologies for the miscommunication, but I was still upset. I later went to Linus about this and stated that the effort to remedy the situation wasn't setting right with me. He told me perhaps I should change my priorities. He was, in this instance, referring to the fact that my brother had suddenly passed away not even a week before I moved for this job, and that perhaps I should just ignore that I had been misled because that was more important. I cannot tell you how upset I felt that moment. The opportunities LTT presented to me were nothing in comparison to the day-to-day issues I faced. It did not matter if I spoke to someone with evidence of an abuse of power or inappropriate workplace behavior. It was considered tattletaling. I was actually called a tattletale. I was told that I was bossy when I was trying to be assertive, like I was asked to do. I was told I was arguing when I was trying to discuss my viewpoint. I was told to calm my tits, just stop being a bitch, and other comments to similar effects. So there you go. I mean, it's she goes on and on and on and on about it, which is fine. She obviously it's her thing, so she can do that. Fuck, does she go on for a long time? She does pull out some receipts, and there is some back and forth and stuff. But just so you guys have some context to who this person is.
And there have been, I mean, in the past, there have been rumors and some evidence that LTT, especially in its earlier years, was as bit of a boys' club.
So,
as a tech in general isn't a bit of a boys' club.
Right, exactly. So, we reached out to Sebastian about these latest accusations. Responded via email. This is in reference to what we just read. I mean, they editorialized some stuff in here, but so this is what Sebastian said about those accusations that she made about the company and about how she was treated there. Keep in mind, we just listened to a leaked audio recording of everything that they said after this happened. His response is, I was in a state of shock reading through these allegations, plain and simple. They aren't consistent with my recollections. They aren't consistent with our internal process. They aren't consistent with our company values. We pride ourselves on maintaining a safe and inclusive environment. In addition to our existing report system, both anonymous and otherwise, we've proactively reached out internally today to encourage members of our team to report any workplace bullying or harassment they may experience so we can take quick, decisive action. Our HR team will be conducting a more thorough assessment of the allegations, and when we are ready, we will release a more complete statement. For now, I would ask that we allow our team the time they need to be as thorough as possible. We know that that team is made up of two people, Linus and one other person that he mentions, which I think was Sebastian, wasn't it? I don't know.
Sebastian is his last name.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't know who he said in the thing, who the other HR person was. So I said
that was Yvonne. His wife.
Oh, okay. So him and his wife are the only two people that this could be referencing. Our HR team will be conducting a assessment of the allegations.
They might be referring to their third-party team. Their third-party HR company may actually send them a team of people.
Could be. Could be.
But yeah, hard to really say what is meant by that.
To me, I think if it was going to be an outside HR team, I feel like he would have said that, but maybe not. Maybe not. In my mind, when I read this, it read to me that now that I know it's his wife, Linus and his wife, you know, like the internal investigation, like we investigated ourselves and we found that there was no problem. That kind of like meme from Blizzard Entertainment.
Yep.
It strikes me like that. Maybe it's because that's what I'm thinking of when I read it, but it hits me as that like, don't worry, me and my wife will assess our company. Because I think Linus and his wife could get away with doing that. And since Linus doesn't want to pay an extra $100 for someone to make a video correctly, I don't know why he would pay thousands of dollars to an HR company to investigate his company. I'm just saying, he doesn't want to pay employees to fix his mistakes in videos. Why would he pay an entire outside HR company to come in and check his mistakes?
Doesn't want to, but at this point might be forced to.
Maybe.
More or less.
Maybe
not at gunpoint, but
I think if it is I think if you don't know all of the details, like we know all the details now, we've gone over everything. So we have that benefit of the doubt that we understand what this means or what it could mean. But like your normal everyday Linus Tech Tips enjoyer might just see this statement like, oh, we're shocked and our HR team's on it. And they don't really need to say anything else to that because your average one of 3 million viewers isn't going to look that deep into it. They don't give a fuck.
Your butt's covered, basically.
So I think we have enough precedent to show that Linus is willing to make mistakes, to know he's making mistakes, and to be okay with those mistakes. And when asked by an employee if they may be allowed to fix them for him, he says no, and the only reasoning he gives is it will cost a couple $100 to do so. So, I mean, if that's the owner of the company and that's the precedent that you're setting, and you're the HR person, lead of the company, I'm just saying, fuck. That's to me, that's a line of thought that we have a lot of backup for. What do we got here? Linus Tech Tips, Facebook post from the 16th as well, the same day.
Twitter post? X post?
X post. Listen, this is still twitter.com, so this is still a tweet. I don't know what this X is. This X is a mistake. We are taking Medicine's allegations seriously. We are conducting an internal assessment alongside bringing in a third-party investigator. Okay, investigator. You guys called it. To look into allegations. We are committed to publishing the findings and implement any corrective actions that may arise due to this. Thank you for your patience, and please allow us the time necessary to be as thorough as possible in this investigation. I mean, a third-party investigator may be just one person, so maybe it's worth it. In addition to our existing report system, both anonymous and otherwise, we've proactively reached out internally today to encourage our team members to report any workplace bullying. These allegations do not align with our company's ethics and our values, and we preach internally. We aim to provide an inclusive work environment where everyone can feel comfortable and, more importantly, safe. Whew. Alrighty. That brings us to this video. Now, I hear what you're saying, Sage, and chat, SK included, that maybe their back is against the wall heavily enough that they have to take care of it correctly. You know what I mean? Like, I think I get what you guys are getting at. That, like, was it you, Sage? You said it, right? I feel like you said it.
About being forced, or
yeah, like this might, like you might have to.
In some, well, either, if not like legally, which is what I meant by saying like they have a gun to their head, that would be
I see what you're saying. Okay.
They just from a PR standpoint, from a saving face standpoint, a big company will, if it costs them money, they will ignore a problem until they can ignore it no more, one way or the other.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So this video here, also from the 16th, much later in the day, which has had 4 million views. And the thumbnail is just Linus with a bummed out look on his face, and it's called "What Do We Do Now?"
It just makes me think of that South Park bit with like BP gas station, or going, "We're sorry," with Cthulhu,
right,
from the drilling incident. We're sorry.
So, Linus Tech Tips has a new CEO.
I think Luke put it best.
This is him introducing himself. So Yvonne, this must be his wife.
Have been raised, and how
Linus's wife, right?
With the money we'll make from our sponsor.
Just kidding. I was asked for unflinching, and here it is. Linus is
Chief Financial.
You've been telling him for years, and I've been telling him for years.
Oh, fuck.
Staying relevant on YouTube.
How about I get the... You guys didn't tell me I didn't have the screen on this whole time.
We don't need to run at this pace.
I've been reading shit and talking about shit.
And keep doing better that have created our current situation. My background is in managing a pharmacy, where the small details matter a lot. And basically, I agree with the community, so I'm putting my foot down. Effective immediately, all YouTube video production is on pause. And our teams are going to be spending this entire next week focusing on long-term workflow changes to make our content better in a lasting way. This means for the first time in
1
over
week is
12
not
years,
enough time.
LTT will be missing not just one daily upload, but many. But improving to the degree that we want and need is going to take more than a week. So I'll be working with Taryn and Colton to manage our sponsor commitments and the financial hit of both this housekeeping week and a reduction in our LTT upload schedule. At least for now, while we get our house in order.
Your house in order? Fucking sell the house. It's worth $100 million. Fucking wash your hands of that shit and walk away. You've done it. You've made it to the top. You're good.
Well, not 100 million anymore.
Oh, that's true.
But before anyone gets concerned that we're going to cut investments into the well-being of our personnel and our future capabilities, I can assure you that I've read the criticisms that we weren't willing to spend $500 to test a product.
You have
And as the
100
one that
employees and
manages
you're
the
worth $100
finance,
million
I
unless
can
you're
tell
paying
you
them
that
$1
could be
million,
further
$100 million apiece or
Linus
$1
made a
million apiece.
clear and egregious judgment
You're good.
error regarding retesting a product he felt was impractical. That was wrong, and I've told him so. He allowed his personal feelings on the matter to cloud his judgment. And I want to stress that our organization is committed to our ongoing investments in making our content better. And we will do better as a team. Why don't I let our chief...
Some mistakes.
Who's Gary?
He's the head of labs.
This is the Corsair guy. He used to work for Corsair, I think.
Yeah. Yes, I think so. Yep.
We're hoping that it's how we deal with them moving forward that will define who we are. And regardless, it's clear that we need to serve you better.
There's a cut.
So our team will be spending our week publishing living documents for our testing standards and opening them up to feedback from the community and our peers in the industry, should they wish to participate. We will also task part of the team with going back through every video with labs data to ensure accuracy, make full corrections, and if there are any fundamental issues with the workflow design or results, pull or replace that video outright.
That's a lot of work right there. That's an intense amount of work. To go back through every video that has labs on it and make sure the labs are correct is a lot.
It is a lot of work. Luckily, in their favor, most of the lab stuff is far more recent.
Oh, good. Okay.
So it's not like years and years worth of videos.
That seemed like a lot.
Yeah, it's definitely not quite that bad, but it is still definitely going to be a lot of work.
Criticism that's been leveled at my team, but for my part, I need to own what we've done wrong and lay out our action plan for how to move forward. Before I do that, one point I do need to address here is that Linus misspoke when he said we retest for every video. We retest for every project. When we use the same data for our RX 7600 and RTX 4060 Ti videos, we knew in advance that these cards would release 2 days apart and designed a broad test suite that accounted for all the numbers we would need to make those 2 videos and ran everything at once with no BIOS or driver changes. In fairness to Linus, the project to video ratio is normally 1-to-1, but the devil's in the details. Now, let's talk about what's coming. We will release our current Mark Bench harnesses as open source items so that the community can audit the code around our test integrations. We will
that
do
is
a
actually
block-style
really good.
video.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
That is really good.
Showing your work, showing your proof.
Open source.
Yeah, let people, give people the opportunity to scrutinize you if they want to. That way they don't have to do it in theory. They can do it. And that's a check and balance against yourself, too, as a company owner or as a team leader, is like there's more pressure to do things correctly if you know that people can and will scrutinize your work. And you don't treat that as like a bad thing. You treat it as a good thing. You're like, this is good. If we fuck something up, hopefully you guys will catch it and we can make better content. That's good. It's good for everybody.
We're testing from start to finish so you can see how the sausage is actually made. We will open a new community forum post asking for transparency suggestions, and more importantly, we will follow up. We will start placing our testing project number in the credits so we are always open about the data set that was used for the benchmark results. And there is a lot more still to come, ranging from test variation percentages per workbench to each benchmark we utilized in the videos, among others. It's going to be a busy week of not making videos.
Same goes for us. I'm James, head of the writing department. We are extremely grateful for everything the lab has done and continues to do to make our jobs easier. But the actual testing is not the biggest source of our recent struggles. It's the human factor. There have been times when an internal video review caught an incorrect graph, resulting in new versions of the graph being created, only for those new graphs to not be put in the video. Just about
Too cringe. Can't watch him.
community members.
I'm Ed.
I cannot. Someone who's acting that unserious with all this going on, can't do it.
Head of our production team. We have some of the most comprehensive documentation and processes in the company, from automations to keep project information
Not
accurate,
funny.
to communication procedures, to standards for how loud videos can be. Those systems have helped with the video edit side of things, but I've seen some examples where we've failed to see the forest for the trees and allowed well-edited but erroneous content to slip through the cracks. So for our part, we'll be spending our time looking at how we can improve communication to help the team address anything that seems off as soon as possible. A personal task for me will be putting the finishing touches on some cool ways we can make small edits that avoid the slapdash text on screen corrections whenever possible. As
Okay.
for how we catch those,
You know, I will say they are in this video addressing a ridiculous amount of stuff that the guy put in the other video.
Basically because they have to at this point.
Yeah, like him even just bringing that up, that tiny detail, that's something that I feel like I had almost forgotten about it. Of course, there's so many things to go
those
over.
bugs, that's not my department, so I'm throwing it over to Nick.
Hold on. I'm most...
Ugh, it's too produced.
You might not see me in video credits, but I still serve as a last line of defense in reviewing most LTP
CW
videos
on
before they are
quality
published.
control.
I typically check for security links and inappropriate or NSFW jokes, but there are times when I catch a factual error or a weird graph that doesn't really tell the full story. To be clear, we also have checks for technical aspects from our writing team, and in some cases, the lab, but our processes for ensuring
He looks
those
like
checks
he's made of
happen and
AI.
following up these
Doesn't he kind of seem like the way he talks? Doesn't he kind of like have an AI-esque feel to him?
I don't think so. I don't know.
Look at the way his like head and mouth moves when he talks. He has like an AI to him.
Findings haven't been perfect, and our corrections are often made quickly. So while we take this time to reflect, I'll be focused on helping build a set of guidelines for our pre-release reviews and trying to set up a system.
And I think
that
his
allows our
glasses
team
make
to
his
take a
eyes
finer
look
look
big,
at
which
every aspect
doesn't
of our
help.
videos, every single time. And maybe with time, everyone here will be so aligned with our mission that my input is no longer needed, and I can focus my full attention on making little widgets that you don't need, but definitely want. Like this.
I don't think I've ever really seen him host any
Harrison are supporting out.
episodes, so if he may be less comfortable with speaking on camera. So this is one that we should watch. Yeah, this is a important one.
The head of business development?
Yes, this segment.
Like HR, procurement, logistics, events, and sales and marketing. Sponsorships specifically are an area where Linus has more limited oversight than he used to, and in my opinion, we haven't done a great job conveying that. It's up to my team to vet incoming sponsor requests and deal with issues that you, our viewers, have with our brand partners. One way we do that is using our LMG sponsor discussion subforum on linustechtips.com to create a dialogue between our business team and the community. It's obvious from some of the issues we're seeing that we need to be more communicative when we're actively working with brands to rectify issues. Most content creators can attest to the fact that brands sometimes take forever to respond to messages or address problems. A perfect
Much like your company when you lose their cooling unit.
example is Anchor not removing
Must be frustrating.
Linus Tech Tips from their Amazon pages, even though we've been asking to be removed since our partnership with them ended months ago. We work hard to push for accountability, but we also understand that these businesses are either large, with lots of moving parts, or small, with limited resources. So things can take time, but you shouldn't be waiting in the dark. It's critical for us to get the sponsorship piece right, because real talk, you guys are the boss. If you're not happy with brands we work with, you won't engage with our sponsors, and suddenly we won't be able to support all the cool stuff we're currently able to do. Moving forward then, you can expect weekly updates in the subforum on issues that need addressing, and we'll also include an up-to-date list of product verticals that are off limits for our channels. We hope this will enable us to make better calls consistently from here on out, all while maintaining our long-time commitment to transparency. Finally, I want to apologize to Billet Labs for auctioning off their monoblock at LTX 2023. Our processes failed when I was selecting items to include in the charity.
We originally said you could keep it because we thought it would be good for you to have at future builds. From Felix. It wasn't so you could sell it, whether for charity or not. Then, when Linus clearly didn't like it, we asked for it back and you agreed. That was a prototype and we're a small company. Do you plan to reimburse us for the money it cost? You agreed to send it back and we planned our finances accordingly. This is not okay at all. So there was a communication. This is to Felix. So there's a communication mishap and we ended up auctioning off the monoblock in silent auction. The good news is that it isn't just sitting on a shelf. We just need a phone number for the shipment and we'll be sending the 3090 Ti back. I see. Okay, so Adam was probably under the impression that the original keeping it was the plan. Let's see, this was sent... Oh, was this sent after? No way, this isn't the response, is it? That'd be 6 p.m. This is 10 a.m. on the same day. No shot, that's the reply? That makes it worse. Oh my goodness. That means he literally just read that they wanted it back and that he was pissed off, and then you made the joke. Wow. I thought this was first, and I was like, oh, okay, he just doesn't understand that he still thinks that keeping it's the plan. That makes it at least a little bit easier to stomach. But that means he responded to this email almost 8 hours later. And made a joke.
Maybe I don't like the fact that it doesn't say AM or P. I know it doesn't really make sense.
It says 1800.
It's saying 1812. So why in this is it not doing some sort of localization for time zone? Because
an 8 hour difference?
Because isn't that normally how emails look when because Billet is UK and LMG is Vancouver, I think, Canada. And an 8 hour difference would be about the time difference, I think, from there to the other side of the pond.
I don't know. It's still fucked. It's a fucked thing to say either way. I mean,
it's totally scuffed, yeah.
Auction. But then it was compounded because when the issue was brought up to me via email, even though I replied 2 hours later apologizing and offering to pay for the component, I forgot to actually include our contact in that email. So it went to our procurement team instead of Billet Labs. Side note, that same team, God bless them, didn't ask our event team who won the silent auction items and proceeded to email everyone asking. We don't need any of that. Certainly not for tax purposes. I clearly need to spend some of my week training the team, unless I actually get fired for real this time. Moving forward, we'll be implementing a more rigid process for separating items that need to go back and which ones we'll be holding on to for future.
That's what I said at the very beginning. I'm like, I'm so surprised after 15 years they don't have a this is shit we keep, this is shit we send pile.
Future testing.
This might ring a little hollow, coming from one half of the WAN Show team that brought you Trust Me Bro and the privateering incident, among others, but we need to be better about our communication. Now, I have no intention to
I like this guy a lot. I don't know who Luke is, but it seems like every time Luke is on the camera, he is determined to be honest. Even to counteract Linus.
From someone who fairly regularly watches the WAN Show, he is a very good, but unfortunately imperfect counterbalance. If Linus has anyone as a keeper, on camera, or a handler, if you will, Luke is basically what we have as a handler for Linus.
Because even Linus said like, was saying shit, and Luke was counteracting it when they were not counteracting it, but like saying, "Hey, yeah, we could have tested it better." Where Linus was like, it wouldn't have mattered, and he's like, "Yeah, we should have done it anyway, though." So it seems like his sense of integrity is higher.
Yeah, he is not. He does not have the same cult of personality, self-image built up that Linus does, from appearances at least. And definitely, but the problem is, he's not the owner.
Right. But I mean, some people would be too intimidated to say stuff like that. To be an advocate for the community over your boss is admirable, if nothing else.
Admirable, commendable, yeah.
Commendable, yeah.
Like, kill the silly humor or be less open with people. I don't want anything to be less fun, but we do need to be respectful and conscious of the impact of our words. We should be proud of the work that we do, but we shouldn't negatively compare ourselves to our fellow tech reviewers. When issuing corrections, we need to apologize. We need to respect people's time and their money. I said after the last round of this that you don't win by screaming loudly or dramaing hard. You win by fixing problems, improving, and becoming a hard target. We're still up a lot, and we need to own that, fix it, and move on, not be defensive or shirk blame. That being said, I'm not really on the production side of things these days. What my teams and I are working hard on is to support the other teams in other ways. Reintegrating into LMG has been somewhat terrifying. One of my team's jobs is to take over management of the infrastructure, and while I have brought an experienced team member into the fold, it needs a lot of work. So far, we've mostly just been focused on documenting what we even have, and most of our initial steps beyond that will be improving overall stability, rather than flashy video-worthy projects. Any production interruptions due to shoddy infrastructure add additional burden to the other teams, and our goal is 6 nines. We will also continue to maintain and develop our inventory system, which, with better processes, should be able to help keep things like Billet's prototype from being mishandled, misplaced, and misused in the future. And the foundational work we're doing on reliable data management and storage should enable teams like the editors and the engineering folks in the lab to move faster and more confidently with lower risk of errors, thanks to new tools like our specs database. Among my other unmentioned and unrelated responsibilities is keeping Linus from driving off various cliffs, which I have failed at a number of times.
And let's face it, he's gonna fail again. Hey, it's me. I'm Chief Vision Officer now, but realistically, I'm not gonna be able to hide behind my recent demotion here. I was the one at the head of the company for each and every mistake that our community has rightly brought to our attention. And once again, I made things worse by allowing myself to respond emotionally.
Dang, okay. Okay, okay. Flashing his own shit. Not bad. That's decent.
It's honestly really hard when people take an internal process error and then they run that all the way to Linus is a thief and wants to auction someone else's intellectual.
Tech tip, want some money? Illegally resell one-of-a-kind engineer sample. Oh man. Preferably sell it to a potential competitor of the prototype owner to raise the price even more. Massive screw up on Linus Tech tip part, but we should keep our criticism grounded in fact, so that the community outrage doesn't get branded as based on fake facts.
Intellectual property to the highest bidder, or accuses me of trying to brush something under the rug just because I do think it's important to get all the details before declaring me to be a low-down liar, straight-up piece of shit. We were slow shipping back the GPU that Billet Labs sent us. There's no way around it. That's our bad. But the delay in communication, the one that prompted the post that you guys just saw, it was less than 2 business days. The second that I was made aware of the situation, on the 14th, I emailed Billet Labs.
Is he doing the explaining it away thing again? I feel like he's explaining it away. You can just apologize, dude. You can just say he did the best thing. He said it's my fault and this post sucked. That's it. He didn't have to go any
just
further.
Leave it at that.
And I explained what happened. I even included Colton's attempt at apologizing and offering, no questions asked, full compensation for their stated value of the product, which happened on the 10th, before we were under any pressure to do so, and without Colton even bothering to check with me or Yvonne before just saying, go for it. He knows that our internal policy is to do the right thing. So, he tried, bless him. I guess his job is safe for another day. And sorry, I guess I've actually gotten a little bit emotional here again, so I'm gonna stop there, because whatever's being said about me and whatever's being said about the team should never have allowed my feelings to distract from any valid criticism of our work. My decision, for example, to not bother retesting the monoblock, that was obviously wrong, and my lame response on the forum was a huge and unnecessary blunder. I owe you guys better, and I'm sorry. For my part, first, I'm going to be working through the other members of the exec team for any crisis communication moving forward. And second, I'm going to spend my week working with the other teams to develop a system of processes that will help our company fulfill my vision of being a world-class tech media organization. I'm also going to be spending my week just refocusing, guys, on what matters most, which is bringing you guys the best damn content that we can make. It's been over 10 years. Good Lord, it's been almost 15. But I still love tech. I love my team, and even though our relationship's a little rocky right now, I love this community and everything that it stands for. None of that has changed, and none of it is going to.
During my interview...
Interesting. Okay. Interesting. I gotta say, I mean, I give Linus's response a solid C+. He just didn't need to go back to, I'm sorry, but. Yeah, like you said, SK in chat. I'm sorry, but. It was very short. It was small. It wasn't that big of a deal. C+ for me. What do you think, Sage? C+?
No,
B-?
I refuse to grade it. Actions speak louder than words.
Oh, no. We're not talking about what he'll actually do. We're talking about as far as YouTube apologies go. Just because there's so many of them out there.
Not even a grade. Marked as incomplete.
Marked as incomplete. Okay, fair enough. Closing thoughts, are these important?
One line from Linus that stood out to me was, I need somebody to come in who I know will be respectful of my life's work.
Yeah, but okay. I don't care about your interview process. I saw one major criticism on Linus's apology. It's gotten a lot of likes and bookmarks and reposts. Linus Tech Tips apology is 1, monetized. 2, has a store plug. 3, has a sponsored joke. 4, discloses monetary amounts of the other party did not want public. 5, a sex joke despite evolving allegations. I don't know what the sex joke was. I don't know what the monetary thing is.
I think that was Luke doing the 69 thing.
Oh, gotcha. At this point, we should have just given Linus a ukulele, which is a reference to the last big YouTuber apology video.
Yep.
Please take out the ittstore.com plug and sponsored jokes before uploading to YouTube. It's cringe to do these jokes in a serious video. Linus Tech Tips response: we're still us. We'd have an equal number of people complaining if it was a completely careful corporate response.
No, you would not. You would have
you
would have fewer people complaining.
We won't be able to make everybody perfectly happy. Man, that language sucks. This strikes me as Linus himself writing this.
I think it is.
So what we're going to do is be ourselves, the best version of ourselves, and move past this. Nick wanted to do the ITT store thing. It broke the tension while we were having tough conversations about accountability and the best path forward. It's a little humor, bad thing, honest question. Not an honest question. That's the opposite of an honest question. The only good thing to come of this video is a realistic reaction pic of how the community feels right now. Nice. Oh, hey, there it is. LMG found the ukulele they accidentally auctioned off. There it is. There it is. I would say this story is not concluded.
Not long shot.
That's the thing is, Linus obviously has an issue with not being 100% correct. And he's very critical of other people. It's almost like he is assigning an assumption that he has to be perfect, and no one's saying that. We're just like, when you fuck up, just say you did and say you're sorry. That's it. And fix your shit. Just stop with the, like on the podcast, he's like, yeah, we could have done it perfectly in every conceivable way, but we didn't, and that's reasonable. It's like, dude, just fucking take the L or do it right. Like, pick a lane. Those are the two lanes. Take the L and stop justifying it, or just fix the shit when someone brings it up. You know what I mean? Refusing to take the L and refusing to fix the problem is like, it's the worst. That's the worst possible outcome, right?
And the appearance of running damage control is almost worse, almost like Streisand effecty, than just doing it. Just do the damage control instead of just talking about doing the damage control.
In a lot of ways, it's interesting that it seems, especially from the snippets we saw of the interviews of them asking if there's something you could change. They're like, we would like to slow down. We'd like to work on quality. Another employee said, can we walk this video back? Can we reshoot the video? Another employee, the other guy on the podcast, Luke, was like, yeah, we probably should have gone back and redid it. Yeah, we could have done better. So it's like there's an entire ecosystem of people who are basically begging for the opportunity to do things correctly. And then there is a giant apology letter after a toddler's temper tantrum on their own forums, blaming everyone else, and then coming out with this apology video that says, that's basically a bunch of employees saying we're going to do what we've been asking to do. You know what I mean? Like, I say. We'll see where it goes. I mean,
yep. Now we wait and see.
They seem like they're in a position to where they probably should do something, because now they're risking kind of losing their spot and the evaluation of their company going down. But it sounds like if they basically just do what all of the employees have been just saying they want to do, we want to make better videos, and they talk about wanting to take their time. So it seems like all these problems would not have happened if they would have just spent more time on the videos and just a little bit more attention to detail. Really. I mean, they don't have to do big, giant, earth-shattering changes to be better. Not at all. And they obviously got the funding for it.
That might be part of the problem. Implementing these little things is very boring.
Right.
And no one wants to do boring things.
Especially if you're a multimillionaire. I really do think all of the fame and the attention and the community validation and the financial validation has ruined Linus. I think he has been ruined. I don't think his brain works the same way anymore, and he's unrelatable now. That's my take. Is that you need to make someone else the front person. Need a new face of the company.
Which is tough to do when the first name is built into it.
Right, yeah, true. Big true. Just needs to find another Linus who's likable. Linus Jr. Tech Tips. At some point, the rest of the ecosystem should bypass Linus altogether. I mean, it kind of sounds like they're doing that. It almost sounds like they were... I mean, I imagine internally there's been some very harsh, like, dude, like, you must stop. You have to stop. You know?
Yep.
It definitely is striking me that way. And you know, I don't think Linus has ill intent. I think he's just brain rot from so much love, admiration, and attention from his community. He can do no wrong. If Elon can rebrand Twitter, then they can rebrand Linus Tech Tips. I mean,
yeah. As well as they've had past controversies that have all more or less blown over.
Right.
And that is almost I would bet that actually has made this blow up bigger.
Right.
Because it's the thing is if every time you get knocked down, you keep getting back up saying hit me again, eventually you're going to get knocked down for good. You're not going to learn your lesson. Right?
Right.
Until it's too late. And it makes me think of the situation with that computer building company. What were they called? Artesian Builds.
Yep.
And they did that thing where they tried, they were doing a giveaway. They were going to give it away to this small-time streamer and their CEO. That whole thing that went down, and that actually collapsed their company.
Right.
Because their CEO had such an ego that they couldn't. They're like, oh no, we can't give away a computer to someone so as small time as you. Effectively, is what was said.
And then what was it? Moist Critical's group and OTK's group just like rehired everybody and rebuilt the whole thing. It's actually a pretty interesting story as far as like the deets go.
Yeah,
we might.
But it's like
might have to talk about that sometime.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But it's like, is this? You can almost start saying like when large companies who, at least initially, had a good premise and pretty strong values, more or less.
It usually seems like whoever owns it just gets too big for the britches. They feel unstoppable, and they say and do shit that's just unhinged because they're like, I make too much money to have problems anymore, or
it's like
I'm too well loved in my community to have problems anymore.
Yeah, it's some evolution of the Peter principle or something, where eventually you rise to the station of incompetence.
Right.
Something similar to that, but for wealthy people, which I think is actually pretty common.
Pretty common, yeah. All right, guys, that's it for me. That's it. We did it. We did the whole thing, beginning to end. We went on this journey together, and what a journey it was. I didn't really know what we were getting into. I did a little bit of research beforehand, only about maybe 15 minutes worth of research. It took us almost 3 hours to get through all that.
Yeah. Here we thought it might be.
I thought this was going to be a short ass episode. I was like, man, this is going to be a fucking crate, and we got going right away. Dang. All right, guys. Sage, do you got anything for the people?
Just honestly, I wish everyone the best of luck. Everyone involved in the situation. Hope everyone for does come out better, and we get better content out of LMG, more accurate. Hope everything gets resolved positively, and I hope everything that happens in your lives gets resolved positively.
Oh, that's sweet. I hope Linus gets an ego check, and I think the best way for him to do that would be to go to some of his most popular videos from over or about a decade ago and to revisit how that made him feel. Because sometimes when I get a video that doesn't get like a lot of views, or I think I did a really good job, put a lot of work in it, it doesn't get much, I'll go back to like one of the first videos I ever made, and it has like to this day, you know, like 100 views. And I think like, man, there was a point in time where that 100 views meant everything to me. Or I couldn't believe that 100 people took the time to watch my video, you know? So it's definitely some personal checks and balances. Can't lose sight of the plot, you know?
Absolutely.
You guys have a fantastic fucking weekend. Have an awesome weekend. We will be back on Monday for a deep dive on Monday. SK came up with a really good nickname for it. I forgot it, but we're going to do that on Monday. Alrighty, we'll talk to you guys later.
Bye. Later.